Greetings from Tokyo. It's nice to see everyone. And today we will be talking, you and I and all of us, about that film, which is Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home. So we will begin momentarily, so sit back and relax and let us just wait a couple more minutes, shall we? Thank you. And I'm still in the middle of getting ready myself here, so I apologize for this. But let's see. There we go. Great. Oops. There we go. Whoops. Great. There we go. Mike Eli is here. Hello. Cartwheel Video is here. Hello. Neo Blissy X VS. Hello. It's nice to see all of you. Thank you so much, Mike. Cartwheel Video. Zyrother. Hello. Neo Blissy. Hello. Neo Blissy. Thank you so much for all of your great Star Trek knowledge. Thank you. If I didn't, I think I might not have given you an appropriate shout out last time, Neo Blissy. So let me just do so now. Thank you. Your knowledge of Star Trek is indeed very impressive. Thank you. Zyrother, thank you. Seth, thank you so much. Huey Lewis, somebody cue the Huey Lewis because we're going to go back in time for this one. Yes, I'd like to thank, yes, the patch of LDS. We'll talk about that. Yes, I know exactly what you're referring to. So thank you. Analysis of Sci-Fi, hello. It's nice to see you as well. A lighthearted Star Trek film, good. That's world needed. Seth Walsh, you say Captain Kirk. Oh yes, we'll get to that too. Captain Kirk, he's a hero. He's taking whaling down to zero. Oh, Captain Planet reference. I think yes. What is it? Gonna help him put us under. Bad guys who like to loot and plunder. I hope that's right. You'll pay for this, Captain Planet. Yes. There's the rap too, right? We're the Planeteers. You can be one too, because saving our planet is the thing to do. Looting and polluting is not the way. Here's what Captain Planet has to say. The power is yours. Right, I hope I got that right. So I watched Captain Planet too as a kid. So. All right, next. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, it's great to see you as well. Great. Erwin, hello. Kubrick Lover, hello. Matt is here, hello. Zay Moderno is here, hello. Henry Covert, hello. It's nice to see you. You say, I enjoy 4 more than 3, but not as much as 2. Zay Moderno, you say, I love Star Trek 4. Yes, me too. Yes, next is Take That, Captain Planet. Thank you. Oh, and then Seth, you also make Tiny Toons. Yes. Yes, I know that theme song too. Although I used to be able to sing it, but not anymore. We're tiny, we're toony, we're all together loony. It's Tiny Toon Adventures. Come and join the fun. Da, 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 da. And now our song is done. Yes, I think that's okay. So let's wait one more minute and we can begin with Star Trek 4. Yes. Thank you so much. Is the sound okay, by the way? I hope the sound is okay. Thank you. Sound is groovy. Sound is good. I was just thinking the other day, actually, yes, a couple days ago, in fact, about Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 2. Army of Darkness and Evil Dead. I know that Army of Darkness is not Evil Dead 2. I know it's so Army of Darkness and Evil Dead 2, by the way. Sorry. What did I say? Because someone said, yes, because Henry said groovy. All right. Eric says, I'm receiving whale song. Yes. Uhura is doing some that part where she just gets it immediately about, well, I'll get, about taking into consideration water density and salinity factors, and she immediately gets it. Amazing, amazing, to be able to convert that sound into okay, yes, yes, analysis of sci-fi. Yes, thank you, thank you. I mentioned them in the same sentence. Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. But I tend to speak rather rapidly, and so it might have sounded like I was blending the two to make it sound like I was speaking as though they were one, whereas in fact they were two. All right. Okay, so let us begin to let us begin our discussion. Great. Jonas Woolstrup is here. Hello. It's nice to see you. Romero Flores, thank you. Great. So I think we're all assembled. And so I'm sure more people will join. And if you have to drop off or leave, that's okay. Not a problem at all. So let us begin in earnest. Greetings from Tokyo, my dear, dear friends. This is Daisuke. And today we will be talking about another Star Trek film. This time we are talking about this film. Very exciting. Very, very excited to be talking about this exciting film, and that is Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home from 1986. And we have a number of people involved, but perhaps one of those people that is quite noteworthy among a number of noteworthy participants in the crew, cast and crew, is of course Leonard Nimoy, once again in the director's chair. So let us speak today about our thoughts and comments and feelings and perspectives and takes and memories, etc., etc., etc. And I say those three etceteras with great warmth and affection. Let us all speak of these and much more if we have the time and the chance during this next hour or so. Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, 1986. Now, before we get started, I should say, as I am accustomed to do, I would like to say that this is a chat for all, and I hope that you indeed enjoy yourselves. The whole point is not to provide any kind of comprehensive, definitive review. I am in no position to be able to do that. I am not an expert when it comes to this film. I am not an expert when it comes to the various extensions that this film is very, I think, very nicely trying to establish, both, say, outside of the film itself and with maybe beyond and into the world of Star Trek, etc. So I am in no way a type of expert, but I come to this as a fan of the film, having seen this since I was very, very young. In the theater, in fact, and then it's been a regular viewing experience for me ever since. So, from that perspective, I'd like to be able to have this conversation and indeed participate in this conversation with you. So, not at all a type of review thing. It's just meant to be a good time. So, in that vein, the live chat is open. And so please feel free to use the live chat and let us know what you think. And hopefully you can talk with others here. And there are so many people that I've had the great fortune to have been able to meet. And so if you have a Star Trek specific question, or if you want to bring up something, if you want to correct anything that I might say, or anything of the sort, please use the live chat function at any time, my friends. And everyone here I know will be very welcoming and will be happy to address anything you might have where possible, of course. So in that regard, let me also say that, of course, if there might be some points of disagreement or contention, that's okay. We are here, all of us on this earth, and of course, we may not always agree on every point all the time, and so that's okay. But as long as we can listen to each other and treat each other with the degree of mutual respect, and I think all is good. So I know I've always relied on all of you to do that, because you have always done that for me, and you have always been great, lovely, shining examples of that all the way in your friendship and also your support of this channel through live streams and others. So I like to thank you in advance for continuing that atmosphere. And so thank you, thank you, thank you so much for that. And also, we'll be talking about spoilers, details of this film. It is unavoidable. We must talk about the specifics of this film, Star Trek 4. So, if you have not seen the film Star Trek 4 yet, then please turn off this video or turn off this live stream. I do not want to spoil the surprises that await you when you watch this for the first time. My goodness, I wish I could go back and watch this again for the first time, not knowing anything. Wow, wow. So, uh, right. So, in order to be able to preserve that joy and that type of surprise and delight upon watching this film for the first time, please, don't worry. You can turn off this live stream and watch this film in your own good time. And then after you've finished watching it, if you're still interested in what I might have to say about it, no worries if you're not. But if you still have some interest, you can always come back to this YouTube channel, as this live stream should be automatically uploaded as a video. Play with You can play back anytime. So I strongly recommend that if you haven't seen it yet. And also, I forgot to say about the live chat. I will try to address everyone, but as you have seen from past live chats, I have not been able to say hello to everyone who appears, so I apologize for that. I will try to improve, but if I am unable to do so to your satisfaction, please just note that it's in no way due to any kind of malice or purposely trying to ignore anyone. Not on the contrary, it's just I'm unable to keep up with live chat. So if I don't get to you or if I don't get to your particular comment, I hope you can understand. But I will always try to play back, and I'll try to look at the live chat and just to see what was said. And so I will definitely try to remedy any any sort of how should I put it, any kind of weakness on my part for not being able to catch up. So, but just note that I am always trying to do my best to keep an eye on what's going on there. So, thank you so much in advance, and just please enjoy. So, let us begin our conversation about Star Trek 4. But before we do so, let me just quickly go to the live chat and then go to let's see. Yes, we'll go to situation here. Oh, and also one more thing too, which is I will uh, maybe I will be focusing primarily on maybe Star Trek related comments or Star Trek 4 related comments. So if you have any comment or question to me that is not Star Trek related, I might skip over that comment or something. So it's not meant for any type of, as I say, I don't mean anything by it except that it's just today, let's focus on, or I'd like to focus my energy on Star Trek. If you do have any non-Star Trek related question, of course, or comment, please feel free to leave it in a comment in under a video, and I'll do my best to respond. I always try to make a point to respond to everything, and so please, of course, let me know anytime, and I'll do my best to respond through that avenue. Incidentally, I think YouTube is a little bit funny lately. It seems to be either deleting comments or treating some comments as spam automatically without my knowledge or control. So I'm trying to remedy that as well. But if you find lately that maybe something that you've written, which is completely innocent and not at all quote unquote controversial, if you find lately that maybe some of your comments have been deleted, just know that it's not me. I haven't been deleting anything. It's just, I think there's a little, I found that YouTube lately, for not all, some comments on my channel, YouTube seems to be automatically regarding them as spam. And I look at the comment, I say, well, there's no spam here. I do get the occasional, like once in a while, like spam comment, like, you know, if you want to meet girls, go to 10-minute 50, you know, those weird ones. And so I think those are very obviously spam. And so those get deleted. But I'm talking about other comments that aren't meant to be at all spam. You read them, and obviously there are people that I know, they're just responding to me or responding to someone. And YouTube seems to be treating not all, but just some of them as spam. So I'm trying to unspam them. But if you do notice that, again, I will do my best to remedy that. But just please note, it's not me directly. YouTube sometimes has a deal with, sometimes it does that. So Yes. Great. Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm looking very. Yes, I'm looking gently here at the chat. It's great. Oh, yes. Um, Eric says, "Are you sure it's not time for a colorful metaphor?" Yes. Oh, zombie. Thank you, zombie beavers or zombievers. Yes, yes. Thank you very much. I saw your Scott. I saw your lovely comments. I haven't responded yet. I think so. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. And an interesting, yes, yes, about the 31 days and the poll. And I laughed too when I read your comment about that, Scott. Thank you. I haven't responded, but I'll try to do so as soon as I can. Seth says, yes, I'm used to piloting a Huey. Yes, yes. A lot of great Sulu moments as well. I think one that gets often gets quoted is right when they approach San Francisco, and after having gone through time travel or time warp. Say it with me, Rocky Horror fans. Let's do the time warp again. Yes, and then they will, when they approach the nighttime or early morning San Francisco lights, and right, what does Sulu say? San Francisco, I was born there. No, I can't do Sulu. I can't do a good Sulu impression for the life of me. I apologize. And then what does Bone say? Oh, it doesn't look all that all different. He says earlier, angels and ministers of grace defend us. Hamlet, Act 1, Scene 4. All right, all right. So let us go to, let's begin. So Jacob is here. Hello. Thank you so much. Um, all right. Um, Oh yes, Eric Pieper says, I love how the Klingon bridge looks completely different from Star Trek 3. Yes, Scotty must have been quite busy in those 3 months on Vulcan. Scotty, yes, and the Vulcan team with those wonderful hats. Oh, I love that. We'll talk about the hats that they wear on Vulcan. That's wonderful. Okay, um, okay, very good. So, let's see. So let us begin. Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. This is, as we know, the another film in this continuing film series focusing in on the crew or people who have been associated, shall we say, with the excuse me, um, the people who have been associated with having served in at one point or another, shall we say, as part of the crew of the USS Enterprise under the leadership of Captain James Kirk and now Admiral Kirk. And I say used to because, as we know, over the course of the films, there's been a number of there have been a number of various circumstances that have given us background details as to what has happened to the crew after the so-called 5-year mission of the original series. And so through a number of circumstances that we see in, say, the first film and the second film and now the third film, or in previous past the third film, we know that the crew are maybe separate or disparate, but then come back together. And maybe there's circumstances of sort. Well, they came together in a way, in a very special and unique way, I would say, during the events of Star Trek 3, leading to the end of Star Trek 3. And as we know, the end of Star Trek 3, of course, my comments here about Star Trek 4 will have to be based on the fact that I'm assuming that you all have all seen Star Trek 3, or at least have knowledge of what happens in Star Trek 3. So what we know is Spock has come back. And due to the great efforts of the many who have come back in order to provide for the needs of the one, to paraphrase what Kirk says towards the end of that film, Star Trek 3. And so now they're back on Vulcan and they have assembled. But what we do know is it is under very unique circumstances. They have assembled on Vulcan. They have been there for a number of months, we understand. They have been there by virtue of not the USS Enterprise, although it was their partway. Finally, the voyage was completed upon the use of this Klingon bird of prey ship And so the ship in question is, for the most part, the primary mode of transportation in space for this crew or this group of people is the bird of prey. And so the idea is they are going to go home and face the music, face all the charges that they know that they have to face, because they know that they have violated a number of, say, federation laws or rules that will subject them, they suspect, to some quite harsh punishment, but they are willing to go home. So that is the kind of one way of looking at the title, right? The Voyage Home. And although I think we can note that maybe the phrase home, or the phrase the voyage home, I think could be applied or interpreted in a number of ways, perhaps also in the way of the ending, the final reveal that I think our dear friend Seth has just now referred to. My friends, we've come home, says one now Captain Kirk, but we'll get to that as well. So that is the general gist, I think. But as we know, it is so much. There's so much going on in this film, and maybe too much for me to be able to touch upon like everything. So I won't be able to do so. So please cover everything that I haven't been able to cover, or correct me where I'm wrong with regard to this film. I will say also in advance that the this film is another very important film for me. It's a 1986 film, so I was still a kid. So 1986, I was born 79, so that would I would have been 6 or 7, 6, 7, 8, something like that. So still not even 10. And here's one where I'm getting a little bit firmer memories with regard to what I saw. I remember seeing maybe I mentioned it before, seeing little maybe TV making of, either it was a promo, leading up to the opening of the film. I remember the marketing. I remember seeing some of the reviews, the TV reviews, like the Siskel and Ebert or Siskel and Ebert style reviews. I remember one of them where sometimes you see those review shows and they'll show a clip of the film. Where I remember the one that I saw, or the one I remember seeing, was they showed, as they were viewing it, they showed the clip of the ending or the climax of the bird of prey having come back, or come back forward in time, back to the 23rd century, into this whole stormy earth because of the probe. The probe that looks like, I remember too, the probe. What is that anyway? The probe, we don't know, and it has the ping pong ball there and everything. And I don't want to, let's say it looks like, I don't know, when I was a kid, do they still have in the US Tootsie Rolls? Tootsie Rolls. There's like uh, fudge candies, and so I always thought, whenever I had a Tootsie Roll, and I know the size dimensions I know are quite different, but whenever I had a Tootsie Roll, I think, oh, this is just like Star Trek for the Voyage Home, the probe. And so, what was I saying? Oh yes, so the clip that I saw on TV with the movie review TV show showed the clip at the end when the bird of prey crashes into the water, and releases, or crashes and releases the whales are still inside, and it's all stormy and rainy, etc. So they showed kind of the ending, or one of the ending clips, and I thought, don't do that. It's a little bit, maybe show someplace earlier in the film. But anyway, I seem to recall also Star Trek Three's trailer showed the actual destruction of the Enterprise, which is just, I don't know. It's unfathomable in today's age of marketing and the importance of non spoilers, shall we say? But it was a different time, perhaps. But let's see. Um, Okay. So let's see. So that means that what was I saying? What was I saying? I tend to do this. I just say, oh gosh, I just suddenly got lost in, oh yes. So this is I have warm memories of this film. And I was just so excited to be able to watch this film as a kid in the theater, which is what I did. My mom took me to see this in the theater. and we were in the U.S. Still at the time, as I recall. It was an exciting time. The film opens with the memorial message to with regard to the Challenger disaster and the space shuttle Challenger disaster. And I still remember that moment. I didn't quite understand everything that was going on at that time, but I still remember that moment too, and that that what do you call it? That really shocking, tragic, and incredibly sad moment in terms of that part of history at the time. And so that was something that I could understand when I saw that particular message. And also, then it goes into this beautiful, uh, almost celebratory feeling and atmosphere of Star Trek and what it is and what it's about and how much fun it can be. And when I was in the theater again, I don't remember everything that happened with clarity. I don't have all the specific memories on command to be able to recall, but I do have impressions of those memories where the theater was crowded. People were laughing so much. Some of the jokes, or a lot of the jokes, went over my head at the time. But I watched the film over the course of many, many, many years, many, many, many times. And so gradually I was able to get more of the jokes, more so than what I was able to get as a kid in that theater experience. But uh the yes, it was all fun times. It was so fun. It was also thrilling, exciting. It does have moments, does have some scary moments, we know, but overall it has this pleasant atmosphere, and it's fun. It is so fun. It has a message, of course. It has these deep rooted feelings. um, right? Maybe to paraphrase something that Spock says when he's describing Kirk, and he's a man of great deep feelings, and so this is a film also of great feelings, much like the films that preceded. But it also has this feeling of celebration and joy, and also just having a good time. This is a film where one can really have a good time. So I always come back to this film if I want to have a good time. If I feel down or blue, I can just say, "Oh, let's just watch Star Trek 4," and it just lifts me up. I can always laugh every time. All the jokes I've seen so many times, but I saw the film once again last night, just to prep for today. I just I was so it was fun. Oh gosh, so much fun. So we will speak about those memories, and that's how I'd like to try to approach today, or at least my own perspective. So I should say too that we know from, say, comments from Leonard Nimoy or others in, say, commentary tracks or wherever, that he, he the creative forces behind this film also, I think, appreciated or understood that we, as an audience, leading up to, say, the first film, but in particular 2 and 3, we are dealing with a lot of heavy stuff, a lot of heavy stuff, a lot of deep, profound, dark, tragic beats, and the destruction of the Enterprise, the death and resurrection of Spock, the whole threat to the crew and their careers and livelihoods, the death of David, and the return of Khan, and so there's a lot of deep and a lot of almost very heavy stuff going on, and so we have therefore yes, death of Kirk's son, death of David, yes. So then also we have all this heavy stuff. So I think in contrast, and I think a really nice contrast too, really well placed in terms of the timeline of the film series, we have this film. Now it's not, as I say, totally bereft of any kind of quote unquote heavy theme. Of course, there are moments of gravity, and there's, as I say, there's the message, the about in respect of the environmental message and whaling, or I should say, in the context of the humpback whale plot. And so these are, I think, very profound and very important themes, and presented in a very uh, balanced and reasonable way. And but it also is counterbalanced by the fun and thrill and joy and comedy and the great atmosphere that is built. And it's built because of the culture clash element. The 20th century meets the 23rd century. I should say the vice versa. 20th century meets the 20th century, and comic hijinks ensue. And so we have those elements, which are, I think, premised on not just the fish out of water type of possibilities, but also premised on the real core strength of the emotional bonds um, and the what do you call it? The emotional bonds and the character dynamics and the wonderful chemistry between and among the members of this group of people, in particular how they react to each other and how they respond to each other, how they protect each other as well, in this fish out of water type of sequence. Also, that is, I think, quite arguably maybe the main component of the film, I would say, but also not just in the periphery, but I think really strongly embedded. We have further embellishments, further deepenings of the world and universe of Star Trek. We once again get a sense of San Francisco in the 23rd century. We see more of the headquarters area. We see the council president. We see other members. We see the Klingon ambassador. We see Admiral Cartwright and others. We also see the return of people like Chapel and Rand, etc., in some really key, maybe some brief roles, perhaps in the context of Chapel, maybe a little bit briefer than had been originally planned, as we know, for those of you who know the production of Star Trek 4. But in any event, we have the return of some of the familiar faces, some introductions to some new faces that will be important, maybe in some later stories along the way regarding Star Trek. And in particular, I'm thinking perhaps of Star Trek 6. But before we get to that, we do see this furthering of this. We also see other starships. We see or hear references to starships. We see the USS Saratoga in the opening, which is also a very, very fascinating opening sequence in terms of the history of Star Trek, and also in terms of the invention or reinvention of certain aspects of Star Trek lore. It's further expanding the universe. As well, we see a reference and also a brief glimpse of the USS Yorktown when Starfleet headquarters is trying to patch into the USS Yorktown, which we understand is captained by VJ Armitage. And so wonderful. And so he is, but of course, it's not so wonderful for him and his crew, obviously, because at the time they are obviously underpowered. They are really, it's quite a grave situation. The risk of life is quite severe. And so they have to, I think it's the idea is that he has to speak slowly in order to preserve oxygen. Otherwise, they run the risk of dying because of their encounter with the probe. And so they're talking about trying to develop a solar sail of some sort in order to be able to generate enough energy to be able to sustain life support systems. So my goodness, that is it's quite a those moments are quite grave and quite serious, and so there are some scary moments. But overall, it is a fun time. It is a celebration of the crew. It is also a celebration and a further embellishment of the world of 20th century and Star Trek and Starfleet and more ships. And then also we get the message, the underlying environmental message, as well as the comic hijinks of the encounters. What does Kirk say? You know, these are primitive people. We are going to be terra incognita. When he says before he leaves, and he say, "Everyone remember where we parked," right in Golden Gate Park, and so. And we hear that wonderful conversation between the garbage men about, I like the way she fights. I'm not going to pay $60 for a toaster oven. What are you talking about? Ah, I didn't see it. Oh, let's go. All right, so we're toaster ovens $60 in 1986. I don't know. I didn't ever buy a toaster oven in 1986, but I'd love to know. I think toaster ovens can go for quite more now. So maybe looking back, maybe inflation, I think. But yes, so those and other details we will talk about. The fish out of water sequences, Jillian, who's also very important, very, very important. We'll talk about my favorite characters, new characters. We'll talk about, in particular, just to give a heads up, I think my favorite quote from this film, and indeed it could be one of my all-time favorite Star Trek quotes, is in the sequence in Plexicorp and Dr. Nichols and I quit smoking, Dr. Nichols. Transparent aluminum, yes. We'll get to that here. Well, shall I say it? Shall I say it? My favorite quote in this film: "Not now, Madeline." Yes, and Paris, the Paris coded Madeline, and it brings up so much intrigue. So what is the deal between Dr. Nichols and Madeline? I'm not suggesting anything. It's just, you know, they work at the same company, obviously, but Madeline, yes, poor Madeline. She's walked in at the wrong time, just as right. Hello, computer, and that wonderful what is it? Apple Macintosh computer with that great shaped monitor. I had one of those. So actually, no, I didn't have one. I didn't have that model. I had one, but that was something that we had at school. Yes. But yes, though that model and the mouse, that wonderful. Um, Angular mouse. And of course, it's been mentioned in the chat here. Ah, yes. Hello, computer. Yes. Um, Back home, we call him the miracle worker. Yes. And you see Scotty beaming. And yes, and there's a wonderful time loop paradox thing going on there as well, as some of you know, in terms of the invention of transparent aluminum, who actually invented it, and the like. So Dr. Nichols, Dr. Nichols, Dr. Nichols. So we'll get to that and more if and when we can. But before we go any further, let us go to the live chat. Yes, Erwin says, I love that VG armor trash carry. Yes, cameo. Yes, me too. Seth Wall says Kirk's reaction to the beer. Yes, it's a Michelob, right? Because he orders the same thing that Jillian did. Jillian ordered right, pizza, mushroom pepperoni with extra onions, and a Michelob. Right? Do you trust me? Implicitly. So Kirk is trying to put the like he's trying to be Kirk. You know what I mean? He's really trying to impress. And so yeah, we see Kirk trying to be Kirk, trying to let the collar down a little bit, try to relax. Later, he'll try to bring up, a little bit of D.H. Lawrence, Whales Weep Not, Yeah, it's just trying to be Kirk. But of course, we know it kind of happens. You think by the time he would have done the D.H. Lawrence quote, it would have been Whales Weep Not, right? They would have been, oh, they're right. She's fallen head over heels of her. But of course, at the end, she's like, oh, I've got to go to my own ship, science vessel. I've got 300 years of catching up to do. Yeah, but as they say at your time, I don't even have your telephone number. How will I find you? Don't worry, I'll find you. See you across the galaxy and bye. Oh gosh, yes. So yes, not even quoting "Whales Weep Not" seem to have done it. But oh well. It probably was not meant to be anyway. And anyway, it's a lovely relationship as we see it in the film, progress in the film. But that's one of the great, I think, charming aspects of that relationship, in particular the Jillian character. And yeah, before I forget, what's his name? Bob, the person that he works for at the cetacean, or that she works for at the Cetacean Institute. I don't know about you, but Bob. Oh gosh, and I think his name is Bob Briggs. And so Bob is the one who seems to have engineered or gone along with the whole thing about letting the whales out early before even telling Jillian about it, which is a pretty terrible move on the part of Bob. I don't know, maybe he didn't have any choice, but I'm thinking that's really bad. That's almost as bad as like Decker not saying goodbye to Ilea type of. I don't know which is worse, actually. Decker not saying goodbye to Ilea on Delton, or Bob not letting Jillian say goodbye to George and Gracie. I don't know what's worse. Oh my goodness, it's just and oh, you son of a. And apparently, according to Leonard Nimoy, or that was actually a real slap on the set, And so the actor who played Bob Briggs was apparently really surprised by it. But it was all in the for the purpose of the scene. So there was no ill will caused, right? But it was a real moment apparently. So yes, Bob Briggs. Bob Briggs, Dr. Nichols, Madeline. My goodness, so many characters to talk about here. Those joggers in the park when the cloaked bird of prey goes. Like what's wow the guy, especially the guy with those red shorts. Oh, great stuff. Anyway, so many things to talk about. Yeah, sorry, what was I saying? So Seth was talking about Kirk's reaction to the beer. Yes, the Michelob. Yes. And he says, I think he prefers Romulan ale. I don't know. Do you think so? I'm not sure. Are there any Kirk experts here who know whether Kirk actually does prefer Romulan ale over Michelob? Has that been written up somewhere? I'm not sure. I don't think it has appeared, for instance, in any of the subsequent films. But although we do see Romulan ale appear, I think, quite memorably in another film, although it's not set up in a way to compare Romulan ale over Michelob. Although one could say in that separate film, maybe the fact that he chose, or the fact that the choice was made to go with Romulan ale, might be implicitly suggesting that he prefers Romulan ale over Michelob. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe they just didn't have a stock of Michelob at the time. Chronologic is here. Hello, it's the whales and the charm. Haha, yes, that's a really well said. Xyrother says, yes, definitely the most kid-friendly of the 6 films. Chronologic continues. Nimoy did a great directing job. Seth Wall says, will Beeman steal the radiation, beam back up before anyone notices? Yes, yes. An admiral. It is the Enterprise. Ah, it's great. Great. The yes, the nuclear. Bartholomew, my dear friend, it's here. Yes, 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 yes. I know, I know. I'm not. I don't. I was debating that too in my head, and I'd probably just. Yeah, I'm gonna go with nuclear vessels. Yes, but it's the nuclear vessel part. But it's still. It's yes. That is Chekhov in his. This is Chekhov, and he has a lot to do. Again, Chekhov in a very vulnerable moment as well, when he falls and has that accident. I remember too the accident part with Chekhov, and the nighttime scene of the base there, Alameda. I think they're still in Alameda base, and so I saw that picture in it was like a photo book, or it was maybe it was some kind of promo material um, uh, leading up to Star Trek 4. And so when the it was and it had book with pictures, and so they were actual photographs, stills from the film or something. And when I got to the part of the book where it got to the bit where Chekhov falls over the ledge there, it was dark, and you had the shot not just of Chekhov falling, and then you had the shot of Chekhov on the ground there with the light shining over. That broke my heart. Ah, poor Chekhov. That broke my heart, which made the whole scene involving the breakout and rescue of Chekhov in at Mercy Hospital, right? It's Mercy Hospital, really so triumphant and jubilant. So and with the great music, the Leonard Rosenbaum music. We'll talk about the music as well. It's that's another interesting aspect. But yes, I do know what you're talking about. Yes, yeah. I also love too the bond that's formed between Chekhov and Uhura, and you can see the emotion and feeling of Uhura. And there's also a great moment too, when they're trying to help Chekhov onto the ship, and also when the ship crash lands in the water at the end after they've returned to the 23rd century, and they have to escape the sinking ship. As they go up the ladder into the escape hatch, there's a brief moment where you can see Chekhov holding Uhura's hand, trying to help her up to the ladder there. So I just thought that was a lovely moment. So, yeah. All right. Let's see here. Um, Cooper Clever says maybe they had to inject some humor into the franchise instead of focusing on tragic issues for a breath of fresh air, perhaps. Yes, that's a really good way of putting it. And I think that has been acknowledged, at least after the fact, anyway, by people like Leonard Nimoy and company. Irwin says, kind of a shame that Savick is hardly in it. Oh, yes, yes. There could have been a little bit more revealed as to perhaps revealing perhaps the reason why. she might have decided to stay. It's not directly revealed in any of the dialogue or anything that we see. So no one is sure exactly why she does, but there has been the there could have been more backstory that might have been included. It wasn't, but it might have been included about why she was staying, and that right, because of Ponfar and part three, we understand that right, that she had sex with Spock, and so that might have been one of the reasons, or might have been the reason that she decided to stay. But again, it's not directly hinted at, or it's not directly hinted. It's not directly revealed in the actual film itself. Yes, and Zarathustra says Chapel is barely there. Yes, yes, and I think yes, to her disappointment, I think in terms of the final cut. Yes, Lane Hedges. Hello, Lane. He says, "Who drinks Michelob?" Yeah, I'm not a. I do like my occasional glass of beer, although I don't drink as much. So yeah, so um, Scott, yes, hello, and love the addition of by Catherine Hicks. Yes, yes, you mentioned other films that you've been. Also, yes, Child's Play too. Yes, Child's Play, Catherine Hicks, and her performance as Jillian, I think, is really really wonderful. It has a type of different. It has a type of energy that I think is needed. It's almost like a how she's like a Howard Hawks character type of energy. She has that like the hell you were, Buster. You were messing around with my tanks and messing around with my whales. She has that type of there's a passion and energy to her, which I think is a nice. It's a nice balance. I don't want to say balance, but it's a nice complement, and also it's a nice counterbalance to the energy of the crew. So I think she does a really fine job, and there's a way that she's able also to, at least in my view, portray that sense of the kind of the wonder and not knowing. She's suddenly on the ship, and she's like, what is that? And right, she says, when they said viewer on, as they find they use, what is it, 401 megahertz frequency to find to track the whales, and they find that already the whales are about to be hunted down by a whaling ship. And so they say viewer on, and she says, how can you do that? It's a very quick moment, but it just shows just enough to show that she's still trying to catch up, and yet at the same time it's not to the point of being overly annoying, if you know what I mean. It's not like she has to, like, oh, what is that? I don't understand. She doesn't do it too much. I think it's just right. So it's a really lovely, lovely balance. It's a great character, and again, that relationship between her and Kirk is a great one. I mean, it might not necessarily be. I mean, we don't know, right? We'll get. Will we talk one day about the loves of Kirk's life? Right? Who should we say? Should we say, in the context of the films, is it going to be Dr. Marcus? Or are we going to talk about people like, say, I don't know, uh, I mean, Generations? Who was it? Antonia, right? Or or Edith Keeler or something, right? It would have been great. I know it was mentioned by Scott Mance and others on that wonderful commentary track to the episode of City on the Edge of Forever. If for instance, for the film Star Trek Generations, if instead of saying the name Antonia, if he had said Edith, or Edith Kim. Wow, that would have been so amazing. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm getting totally ahead of myself. Anyway, what was I saying? So yes, the relationship between Jillian and Kirk is another key component. I should say, incidentally, remember from Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, do you remember how we say, beam them aboard? You say, Krug, Christopher Lloyd character, said, Malt Cho Chu. And Kirk was able to pick that up in that film, as we recall, so he was able to mimic that. He says, Malt Choi Chu, right? In Japanese, the Japanese language, the word chu can also be used to describe, it's a kind of a cute way to say kiss, to kiss, to kiss. Because it also is, it's a type of way of using language to mouth out the sound of something of that is reminiscent of the meaning. So chu is like kiss in Japanese. So I'd like to think in a totally alternate universe, remember in Golden Gate Park after they beamed out from the Mercy Hospital elevator, and they've rescued Chekhov, and he said, "Oh yeah, yeah, you can't. I'm coming with you, but you can't. You can't. Our next stop is 23rd century. The frequency, please. Thank you." And he beams up, and then she says, "Oh," and she jumps onto him. It's a surprise, and it's a kind of a romantic, kind of really cute moment between the two of them. And Jillian has that great surprise. It's a very intimate moment between them. I would like to think that maybe in an alternate universe, Kirk might have tried one more time. And to be like, all right, Scotty, beam me up, or let me say in Klingon, Choi Chu, or something like that. I don't know. Maybe right. He was just trying one more time to see if he could get a little kiss from Jill, but Choi Chu. So, but anyway, sorry about that. It never worked out that way. Yes. So Neo says Madeline was interrupting a particularly lucrative meeting. Not now, Madeline. Yes. Yes. Neo Blissy, thank you so much. Yes, Seth says you had mentioned the glasses would come up again. Yes, I did mention, I think in Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, that the glasses that were given to him by McCoy in early part of that film would come up again, and they do indeed come up again with the glasses. One frame, I think it's one of the lenses is cracked, which we see a little brief insert shot of at the very end of Star Trek 2, as he's trying, after he throws the thing on the table and he's trying to read was it, I think it's still A Tale of Two Cities, and then so yeah, so then right, they would be worth more if the lenses were still intact. And he says, I'll give you $100. And Kirk says, is that a lot? And the guy said, mm. And I remember, I mentioned it earlier, but I remember that I got a huge laugh in the theater when that happens. So I love the guy too, and that little thing that he has on. I don't know what you call that thing. Is it a light that he has on the top of his glasses there? That's great. So, and his tie too. His tie, that guy in the antique pawn shop has, is really great. All right. Let's see. Analysis of Sci-Fi says Kirk is always Kirk. Yes. Eric Pieper says, to hell with Bob. Yes. Yes. They like you very much, but they are not the hell your whales. The hell, I'm sure they told you, oh, the hell they did. Spock, I don't think you should swear anymore. Why not? I don't think you've gotten the hang of it. I see. You can see how disappointed he is. How bad, like when Kirk tells him as they're walking by Golden Gate Bridge, he just can't swear. He's not able to swear. And then later he says, "Where's the power I promised? Where's the power you promised?" He says, "1 damn minute, Admiral." Yes, it's a great moment. Yes, so it comes full circle in terms of that. All right, so let us go really quickly. I say really quickly, but let us go just beat by beat through the film and see where that take us. So we have, yes, as I say, we have this great. Oh gosh, hold on, give me 1 second here. I'm sorry, I just lost my place here. Sorry about this. I tend to do this all the time with. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so thank you very much for waiting. Thank you for your patience. So now the film opens, right, with that wonderful blast of the Star Trek theme, and then the beaming out of the title, the Star Trek for the Voyage Home, once again in that wonderful font, and then the credits, the title credits in the star field, and we get the theme. it's a different theme. We don't have James Horner. It's Leonard Rosenman, right? So it's the dun 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 dun. So it's a nice jubilant theme. Maybe it's not necessarily my absolute number one top favorite Star Trek music I've ever listened to in my entire life, but it's good, right? It does what it needs to do. It has a hop and a skip to its step. You know what I mean? And I like the beats too, especially too. We'll get to the ending montage. That is a really cool ending montage, and the use of the music and the waltz part, da 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 da. And I love how it's applied when I think it's Spock and Kirk are walking by a Golden Gate Bridge, and also there's the softer moments, da da na 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 na, when you see I'm talking about the montage part where you see the clip of the whales. We assume it's George and Gracie, and the sun that's shining through the surface of the water from below, shining up through above. And that's so it's a good theme. I know it's, as I say, it's not my absolute favorite music ever, but it's I think it's really good, and it sets the tone. And then we have we see the all the players, and everyone is back, and Leonard Nimoy is directing, and we see also Harv Bennett, and also we see a little bit of Nicholas Meyer too as well. But we go through with the sequence, and we see the background developing some kind of nebula type of thing. We're not quite sure what that is, but then from the distance emerges the sound, and this thing, whatever it is. I can't do the probe imitation, so but it's got that very maybe mysterious or haunting or ominous tone to it, and it just goes, and it's this huge tootsie roll that's flying through space. And then we see that the crew of the Saratoga say it's a probe captain. It seems to be a probe captain, something that's generating enormous levels of energy. And it seems too that whatever it's doing, it is causing, whether on purpose or accidentally, it is causing all starships, such as the USS Saratoga, to suddenly lose power. And so we know how it's a great moment too. It's really scary too, and the captain of the Saratoga and others, as it's going like this, right? This is the USS Saratoga. Come in, please. Come in, please. Yeah, that's a great moment when the camera tilts like that. It's really scary, actually, and we see the flashing bit. And I understand too. This is right. Based on my understanding, this was a kind of a reuse. I'm talking about the model ship. It's a kind of reuse or readaptation of the model, the Reliance. So it's not meant to be the same ship in the universe of Star Trek, but it seems to be the same class of ship as the Reliant anyway. So I think there was a refit or reuse of the actual model for special effects purposes. But please correct me if I'm wrong on that. But in any event, yes, so we have the introduction of the threat. This is the threat. This is the enemy. Now, a probe, we don't know quite what's going on. And even by the end of the film, we're not sure exactly what this is and its relationship to the humpback whales. Are the humpback whales maybe some alien species life that might have been either maybe they were pioneers, or they were explorers or some sort from a different planet that were trying to settle on various planets in the universe, including Earth, and maybe the probe was to try to reach out. Again, I don't know what the specific backstory is. I haven't had a chance to research this, unfortunately. So if you have any details on this, please let me know. But as far as the details of the film are concerned, it seems to be that this probe is searching for something, and we understand later that the probe will be searching for humpback whales. But because by the 23rd century, humpback whales are unfortunately all extinct, there is no way to respond to the message. And so this is the quote unquote threat. Now, we understand ultimately that this probe seems to be benevolent, or doesn't have any outwardly or purposeful malevolent. And so Tichiro flying through space. Were there ever any models? Was there any toys that were sold of the whale probe? I would love to know if that's the case. I'm sure there must be. even, must be now, action figures or something of the probe. If there are, please let me know. Also, could you imagine? Here's another probe that comes from the far reaches of the galaxy, heading towards Earth. Where have we seen this before? We've seen this in, of course, Star Trek: The Motion Picture, Voyager, the Cloud, etc. Could you imagine a one-on-one showdown? Voyager versus the probe, the whale probe. Who will survive this 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 match, this battle? Now I'm not sure. Voyager's pretty strong, and Voyager's got those plasma like white cauliflower like bolts of energy that could use to totally neutralize the probe. We haven't seen any ships attack the probe. So we're not sure what the defense systems are of the probe, but I'd like to see V'ger take on this probe and see what might happen. My guess is that V'ger would not be able to get close enough to the whale probe because the whale probe might be so overpowering in its communications that it would render V'ger powerless, right? Although maybe V'ger's power systems are such that it could withstand the whale probe's communication frequency power. Who knows? Anyway, V'ger versus the whale probe. So which one do you think will win that battle? Please let me know. So anyway, we have this threat that is posed, and we understand too that it is heading towards Earth. And also, by the way, we also understand that on Earth, the council proceedings are such that the Klingon ambassador is essentially revealing the charges that have been brought. That the Klingons wish to have Kirk extradited for what they perceive to be crimes committed against the Klingon people, and this is a reference to Star Trek 3, and it's very conveniently in the world of Star Trek. How do we know what happens in the past? But we have the magical VHS tape. And so they play the scene from Star Trek 3 where poor Torg and others are destroyed, are killed in the destruction of the Enterprise. And we also see the outside of the Enterprise. So all those security cameras that they relied upon for the footage in order to show later in this council meeting were very much situated exactly in the same spot as the filmmakers of Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. So it's a really wonderful thing. It's much like, I mean, Seth made a reference to Back to the Future, Huey Lewis in the News. We made Back to the Future references in part 3 when we're talking about Christopher Lloyd. Let me just do one more time, Christopher Lloyd. Marty! And he's talking about in Back to the Future the video camera. And you've got this, what is it, this television studio, right? He's talking about this video camera. So what was I? So it's like he's got they have their own set of television studios, cameras all situated around the universe, situated exactly in the same spot as the alternate reality of filmmakers making a film called Star Trek: The Search for Spock. By the way, I mentioned Star Trek Generations. In that film Generations, at the very start of that film, what was so fascinating to me was the way in which the cameras, the paparazzi camera or the reporter cameras are shown in that particular world at the very start. Incidentally, too, another connection between Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, and Star Trek Generations, that we actually have specific references to alcoholic drink, right? The champagne bottle. Is it please, someone, if you know what the champagne bottle, I forget what the champagne bottle is is it Dom Perignon? Please correct me if I'm wrong, in Star Trek Generations. And then here we have in Star Trek 4 Michelob, Jillian's drink of choice. And again, we're not sure if Kirk likes it or not. He looks at the glass. I don't know. Does he like it or not? I'm not sure. I haven't had a Michelob in quite. Actually, I've had a Michelob maybe once or twice in my life. Michelob is not a common choice of drink here in Japan, for whatever reason. I'm not sure. Okay, so that is the threat, and that's the threat on the one hand, and also the idea that Kirk has somehow committed a threat of some sort, or the events of Part 3 are such that he has to face charges by the Federation in terms of Federation violations, and also the threats from the Klingons. Now, the Klingons don't emerge much more beyond this point, except there is a very key line by the Klingon ambassador before he leaves, and that wonderful ornate costume that he has with the whatever it is, I don't know what you call it. It's those are those long rope-like things. They look like the ropes that you pull to open curtains. That's a great costume, by the way, of the Klingon ambassador. But he says, there will be no peace as long as Kirk lives. So this is a kind of key moment as well. Now, a lot of people say that 2, 3, and 4, Star Trek's 2, 3, and 4, form a type of trilogy of sorts, and indeed that's the case. And maybe part 5 is its own little adventure. And we'll get to that when we talk about part 5. But you can actually say that part 6 could be either a fourth part in this trilogy or a type of coda, but there's definitely continuity. And indeed, this quote by the Klingon ambassador, "There will be no peace as long as Kirk lives," this will have its echo when we talk about part 6, the undiscovered country. So let's remember this point, and let's remember too the Klingon ambassador who's saying it as well, and Admiral Cartwright as well, and others. So, but this is the whole thing, and then we go to Vulcan, and we understand too that during this time the ship has been is getting prepped to go to Earth, and we also understand that at this point they're still on Vulcan, and Admiral Kirk still, and the group are now voting, and they have all decided unanimously to return to Earth to face the charges that they know they need to face because they have committed violations or crimes, and they need to be punished for that, and they are willing to do that. And so then they get ready for that. And as people have mentioned, they have refitted the ship. And Scotty says, he had to replace the Klingon food packs, etc. There's something about the Klingon crystals, the dilithium-based. I think it's dilithium-based crystals, right? And there's an issue with the crystals when they shoot out of time warp and they land into 20th century San Francisco, which is one of the adventures. They have to get the photons, right, from the Enterprise from Alameda, because the world was still fiddling around with what is it, nuclear fission, not nuclear fusion, but nuclear fission reactors. But what was I saying? Oh yes, so the crew, we understand, is now getting ready to go back, and they've essentially refit the ship, and now it's HMS Bounty, and they've refit the Bird of Prey ship. And so they've refitted so much that I think, as Eric Pieper mentioned in the chat there, the whole bridge has changed too. Remember that bridge in Star Trek 3, that wonderful high chair and the pink and blue lights and all that, and the small screen? Now it's a much, whatever it is, it's either a different room in the ship, which I don't think is the case, or yeah, Scotty and company really did a number on the refit of that Bird of Prey, huh? And when I say Scotty and the rest, I'm sure he got help from that wonderful Vulcan crew. When the background, you see the Vulcans just looking at the tubes, looking here, looking there, carrying a box, going here. It's great. And those hats are awesome. I love that hat. They look like I love eating nuts, and they look like cashew nuts. They're wearing like cashew nut shaped hats. That's so cool. Do they have hats like that? Has someone ever made that? Now, I know our dear friend of the channel, and all of us, we love the channel very much, Jerome Weaselberry. Now, at the end of Star Trek the Motion Picture, or during the course of that chat, I had asked if there was someone who was making Vulcan Kolinar neckwear. And she reached out to me in the chat, and she said, yes, indeed, she found somewhere, I think on Etsy, that someone was selling a Kolinar jewelry, which was such a cool thing. So thank you very much. A shout out to Jerome Weaselberry. Once again, if you haven't checked out her channel, if you haven't subscribed, do so now. Do so now. You will not regret it in the slightest. It's a great channel talking about literature, cinema, Star Trek as well, and others. And so then my question to Jerome Weaselberry, and indeed others, do they sell those hats, those Vulcan hats, the cashew nuts shaped hats? If so, please let me know. I'd love to. I don't know if I'd buy one, but I'd love to at least know if they sell it. So let's see here. All right. All right. So, and then of course we have the final setup here of Spock, which is again a type of carryover from the third film or the second film and the third film, and now the fourth film, because we now know that the Katra is now reinstated into Cox. What I say? Did I say Cox? Did I say Cox? I didn't mean Cox. I meant to say Spocks. That was a mixture of Kirk and Spock. Kirk and Spock equals Cox. I didn't mean to say that. That was a mistake. But that's a kind of funny mistake. But in any event, Spock's mind. The Katra and Spock. That's why I said Katra and Spock. You mix it up. If you mix that up too much, it goes into yeah. But anyway, Spock's Katra was now reinstated into uh, Spock's mind, and Spock's mind, or not Spock's mind, Spock's body, and Spock's body, as we know, has been regenerated due to the Genesis effects, and so regenerates so perfectly timed, by the way. It's a wonderful Genesis. So proto matter probably is so controversial. It's able to to catch exactly the time that the person who died has now been resurrected. But anyway, now Spock, we know from the hilltop, and he goes there and he does the multitasking Spock. This is wonderful, and that great computer, correct, correct, and that font shape. I don't know what that. What is that? There was a game. What was it called? Ghosts and Goblins, or for the Nintendo or something that has a wonderful font. There are some games. Does anyone know those old 8-bit NES games where they had that font? Correct, 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 correct. How do you feel? Huh? How do you feel? How do you feel? I don't understand. I don't understand the question. I don't understand the question. And then we have the wonderful return of Amanda. Yes, it's great to see Spock's mother, Amanda, return. And of course, we saw Sarek in other, we earlier in the film, he's on Earth, and now we see Amanda. And so this is another great callback to the original series, Journey to Babel, and of course, the understanding that Spock, or reminding us that Spock is half human because of his human mother, Amanda. And we see her, and she has this wonderful explanation about the computer understands that Spock is half human. He is being brought up in the Vulcan way, but the computer understands he has a human part of himself, and so therefore, the computer asks this question. And so this goes into the idea of Spock and understanding that he has to go back to Earth because of the trial, and he has to be a witness. And he says, and Amanda says, "Why do you feel you have to do that?" Because I was there. And she goes into that great, revisits the quote about the needs of the many outweighing the needs of the one, except in the instance of Spock, because then we can say that the needs of the one outweighed the needs of the many, at least for this group of people. And when she reminds him of that, then this is her way of emphasizing that, therefore, he is standing here alive because of the illogical folly of his human friends. And so this is setting up not only the idea that, or revisiting the idea of logic versus human, say, emotion, which is I think, a really nuanced theme in the context of Spock, but also the idea of human folly and how humans do illogical things, and they do indeed. And so this ties into a cut to the probe in space. And so I think the link there too is also the idea of human folly leading to disastrous consequences in the 20th century, and that human folly being the extinction of the whales. But now we see the possibility of that rescue, and we will see those possibilities further established as we get to the next part of the film. But before we do, my friends, let me go to the chat. Scott says beer you can get used to, different flavors, some more bitter. I love that. Oh, so this is the idea of the different flavors of beer and Michelob, right? Wonderful, wonderful. Yes. Five bags of popcorn is here. Hello. Mike Barrett is here. Hello. You say, Mike says, loved this film ever since I was a kid. Oh, me too. Me too. Yes. Oh, Neo Blissy, thank you so much. Neo Blissy, you also say, in addition, that bridge, referring to the now refitted or uh, the Star Trek 4 bridge, let's put it that way, of the Bird of Prey, that bridge was the source of nearly every Klingon bridge from then on uh, until the Enterprise series. Yes, yes, very good. So we'll see the bridge again, I think, in kind of in, yeah, it has a similar design in 5. It has a kind of similar design in 6. It has a kind of, yeah, you're so, oh, right, exactly, yes. Um, Oh, I can't wait to talk about Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Oh, I can't wait. All right. Anyway, let's see. Mike says, Daisuke, do you prefer Star Trek or Star Wars? I prefer Star Trek. That's a really difficult question. I really couldn't make a choice. It's too difficult. Um, Jerome Weaselberry, our dear friend, says, haha, you're welcome. And thank you, Daisuke. I'll see if I can find any of those hats. Thank you. No pressure, of course, my friend. No pressure. Let's see. Seth Walsh says, anyone remember Caveman games on the NES? I did play the NES, but oh gosh. Seth, our dear friend Seth Walsh, another great channel. Please check out our dear friend Seth Walsh. Seth, I just want to say right now, Seth Walsh has this wonderful, wonderful ability to remember all these details. Even upon just watching the film once, he just remembers things. It's like Jillian in Star Trek 4. He almost has like a photographic memory. He's like, I see words. It's like Jillian. So Seth Walsh, wonderful film discussions on his channel. Please check it out as well if you can. But Seth talks about also great knowledge of video games and NES. I don't have, my video game knowledge is nowhere near in depth as Seth's, but that font. How do you feel? Yes. How do you feel, font? Yes. Great. Roger's here. It's nice to see you, my dear friend. Thank you. And William Mann is here. Hello. It's nice to see you. Nice to see you again. Thank you. Oh goodness, another, yes. The owls are not what they seem. Yes. Twin Peaks. Are we get show? Are we? Do you want to do a live stream series on Twin Peaks one day? I can't. I'm not promising anything, but let me say I am thinking about it. All right. So let's see. Going back to the film, we have now all the chess pieces set up for them to now they're assembled, and now everything will come into place. So now the probe is heading towards Earth, and we have the president and Cartwright and Sarek and others, and Michael Berryman is there, and Chapel and Rand is there, and other people there. Oh, it's all panic because now everything is going to, it's all chaotic because power systems are failing, electricity is failing, and every life support will fail, and people will die if nothing is done soon because of the probe. And now we understand too, the probe is seemingly focusing its energies on the oceans of Earth, which is something that Spock picks up on a little bit later in the film, quite astutely, as a matter of fact. Bravo, Spock, for picking that up. So we have the distress call, and it's interesting that Sarek says to the president, the council president, you'd think that the council president would know this already, but he has to be reminded of this by Sarek. Sarek says, Mr. President, like the world is about to be destroyed. This might be a good time to send out a distress message while we can. And the council was, yeah, that's a good idea. Thanks, Sarah. He just goes out and says, okay. And Sarah's like, oh no, all right, maybe we should get in. Anyway, so they sends out a distress, and then the message is sent out, and it's like, don't come to Earth, people. There's a probe, and it's causing all this damage and chaos. Don't come. Save your energy. Save yourselves. Uh, and everyone's on the bridge of the bounties. Oh my goodness. And what is the probe? And so they have this great moment. I love these moments in Star Trek where they are analyzing the problem. And and I love this moment too, where you have, well, before that too, there's a little bit of a moment between Bones and Spock about the trajectory going home. And he says, I'm hearing various distress calls. I don't doubt that, because there's an exchange between them where Spock is kind of rudely, I would say, just brushing off McCoy, saying, I wouldn't be able to talk to you about my experiences with death unless we had a common frame of reference. So he's like, so you saying I have to die in order to be able to talk to you about death? He's like, I'm sorry, I'm hearing a lot of distress. I don't doubt it. You really have gone where no man has gone before, Spock. It's me, Spock. So it's all that, this exchange between Bones and Spock. So we can say on the one hand that the everything is back to normal, in the sense that kind of playful antagonistic relationship between Bones and Spock. Although I must say, I love Spock as a character. I really love him. Don't get me wrong, but this is a kind of rude thing. You'd think that he'd show a little bit more tact, especially towards someone who held his katra, right? If my katra, if I'm thinking of my katra, if someone held my katra for whatever it is, like days or months or whatever, and the katra that he held for me suddenly was then infused back into my body, and then maybe sometime later I'm talking to this guy, oh, hi, how are you doing? If someone holds my katra, then I will drop everything and say, yeah, you held my katra, I owe you everything. What can I talk to you about, my friend? So that's how I'd feel about someone who held my cut. Spock's like, well, who are you? What do you think? So just Spock, come on. I know you're getting back into the swing of things, but just remember who held your katra, right? It was McCoy, Leonard H., son of David, after all. So anyway, yes. Thank you about that. Katra, yes. Incidentally, Seth, I know we were talking about Seinfeld and Seinfeld references. I know there are a lot of Seinfeld references made in regard to Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. There's also one that could be made kind of maybe indirectly to Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home. You remember the Seinfeld episode? Is anyone here a marine biologist? Yeah, all right. Anyway, if they had golf in Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, it would have been perfect, huh? But anyway, let's see here. Timothy going so. All right, sorry, my friend. I hope you're well, and yes, it's nice to see you. And so, oh yes, what was I saying? Yes, so now the crew are now trying to analyze the problem. And so they are able to get a little bit of a snippet of what it sounds like, the probe. And so that allows Kirk to go to Uhura and say, can you make some adjustments, taking into account the water density and salinity factors? So this idea of what the sound of the probe what it would sound like if it were being heard underwater on Earth, which is such a great quick thing. And that's based on the fact that Spock says earlier that it's probably directed, right? It's how can we presume that it must be a message made for human beings? Because after all, there are other forms of life on Earth other than human beings. And he says, therefore, it might be directed because, as the president said, it seems to be targeting or focusing its energies on Earth's ocean. So maybe it's an underwater aquatic life form that seems to be targeting. Maybe. That's such a brilliant move there. And then it causes Uhura to do her great work with quick thinking analysis, providing the way in which the probe sounds might sound underwater, then leading to the great analytical approach to the problem, going to the cargo, and then seeing if there's enough space to hold humpback people, sir, according to Scott. No, whales, humpback whales. What are you talking about? And so that leads to the great, and then the idea too about set your computations for Time Warp. And yes, once again, yes, I love me some Rocky Horror. You know, it's just a jump to the left and a step to the right, right, with your hands on your hips. You bring your knees in tight. Could you imagine if it was the cast of Rocky Horror that was the crew of the HMS Bounty? That would be great. Who would be the captain? Right, Frankenfurter. You'd be like, I don't know. Oh, Rocky, set your computations for time, or something like that, or and then Rocky would be like, right, and setting up for time warp and everything. So it'd be great. But anyway, so then that's that great moment of Kirk and the message, and he sends it out to, uh, uh, we're going to attempt time travel. We're making it at this time, Right. I love it. And then Admiral Cartwright says, get him back. And then those people are trying to put the suction cups on the glass there. The glass explodes and it's and you've got the very despondent looking Sarek and like, oh, we're doomed. He's got that we're doomed look. And it goes into the time warp part, the slingshot effect. And right, I love the little thing where Kirk says, right? Oh, you've done it before, right? Again, it's kind of a reference back to this is something that, yes, indeed, the crew of the Enterprise did go back in time in past occasions, and so it's a nice little callback to that. But you don't have to know that in order to be able to still to enjoy the sequence. It's the time warp sequence. Somehow, the slingshot effect of the sun will then somehow catapult them back into time, thanks to the very great and specific calculations of the crew, including Mr. Spock. And so you got a great sequence, and it's very suspenseful. And Sulu, warp 7, warp 8, warp 9. I remember in the theater, it's like, oh, he's reached 9. After that, it's just 10. Wow, what's going to happen when he says warp 10? But no, he says 9.1. Now he's going to go into decimal points. Oh my goodness, that was amazing. So and also it made me understand. Again, I saw this at a young age, so it made me further understand the importance of decimals in counting. So it was great. It was that sequence. It would have been nice for Torg on Star Trek 3 on the bridge of the Enterprise before it blew up if the computer said 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then 1.9, 1.8, 1. If it said it like that, would have given him screw a little bit extra time maybe to escape. But oh well. Those decimals are great. Sulu and decimals. Remember, right? I think early on in the Star Trek series, right? The Cage. I think he was meant to, or not the Cage. What is it? I'm sorry, not the Cage. Not the Cage. Why am I blanking? Right. Oh gosh, why am I blanking on the episode name? Please, but he was meant to be a mathematician, right, as well as, but he ends up being the helms person, right? But then the helms person, maybe he also has a mathematician background. So, but oh gosh, why am I, my memory is so terrible here. I so much apologize for this. Oh gosh, why do I? Where no man has gone before, of course. Sorry about that. Yes, where no man has gone before. Yes, and someone also in the chat mentioned, speaking of where no man has gone before, someone mentioned also, rest in peace, Sally Kellerman. So, yes, so a really important part of Star Trek, and really also an important part of that episode. And so, yes, so. Let's see. Where was I? So, gosh. Oh gosh, where was I? Yes. So the time warp, and then they go back in time, and now they are back in time after this really. At the time, it was really cool sequence with the whole thing with the almost the computer graphic, their heads floating in from like it looks like a world of like marshmallow, and like, oh, and then you hear little bits of their dialogue, and you understand later that it's dialogue that we'll hear later, so later in the film. So it's all, we're talking about everything, man. Like, we're not even thinking about Dad, Spock, or something. I should never have left him. Ox power, so all this, my God, where are you? So all this stuff we're listening, and these are bits of dialogue that I think we're gonna find out that we'll hear later. And the heads come out, and we got the whales, and suddenly we got this shot of a like a pond or water, and then they land, and they said, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived at the latter half of the 20th century. Oh, what a great line that is! It's a great line. And so I understand that Harv Bennett and Nicholas Meyer did a little tag team on in terms of the writing of the script, and so according to what they say, this is the point where I think that they take over. One takes over from the other. So San Francisco, I was born there, and they have to cloak immediately because they're probably already detectable. So they cloak, and so this is a reminder of the cloaking device of the bird of prey, and they land. Take us over Golden Gate Park, and they know San Francisco here, and so but they also understand too that there are other problems. They have to find the whales. They also have the crystal damage problem because of the depletion of the energy, and so they have to find a way to, even if they were to find the whales, they wouldn't be able to get back to their time, let alone they wouldn't be able to escape the Earth's gravity, excuse me, according to Scotty, let alone go back through time warp back to the 23rd century. So they have to find a way, and this is where Spock relies on his great intelligence to talk about fission reactors, and maybe they can capture the escaped photons in order to use those, apply those to the crystals, and to initiate crystal restructuring that would be enough to generate enough energy to be able to escape the Earth's gravitational pull, and then do another time slingshot effect back to the 23rd century. So that's another project. And also they need to construct a whale tank in order to be able not just to transport the whales from their location to the ship, but also hold them within the ship of the bird of prey in order to be able to bring them back. So this is the whole setup. These are the three problems that I think are well set up here. Kirk assigns makes teams, and each is assigned a particular task. And so Uhura and Chekhov are assigned the task of what he calls the uranium problem, and then Scotty, Sulu, and Dr. McCoy are assigned the problem or the task of trying to construct the whale tank. And I love Bones's quote here. Oh, joy. I love that. Oh, joy. It's a great quote. Another great quote from Star Trek 4. And then Spock and Kirk are going to be handling the task of trying to find humpback whales. And so that is the setup. They go, everyone remember where we parked. And then the garbage men, and I like the way she fights, and the $60 toaster oven. Oh, I didn't see it. And done, 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 done. But and then right, I don't like to swear on this channel, so I'm probably gonna forego the swearing. So watch where you're going. You're done, double down, and I love Kirk's like as he's crossing the street and say, and those newspaper things, and you put a coin in, you open the box, and you get the newspaper out of that. It's a miracle these people ever got out of the 20th century, right? They're still using money. So it's this idea too about how. It's a reminder too about how in the 23rd century, money is no longer a thing. People don't use money. Although it's an interesting thing. We'll get to Star Trek 6. There's an interesting quote that Dr. McCoy says in Star Trek 6, which is related to money. But in any event, we understand that they're still using money, and so they need to find money. So they go to the shop and they sell the glasses that we talked about. There's a scene where the rest of you break up. You look like a cadet review, and everyone's like standing like what do I do? And you see all the great costumes. And I must say too, Chekhov, when you first see Chekhov at the beginning, I forgot to mention, those costumes are great. In particular, the fashion is great. In particular, Chekhov, when he's saying, "I, sir," he's got the coat hanging off on one shoulder. Oh, so cool, Chekhov. But anyway, so we've got the group there. By the way, which person has the best fashion in your view? I mean, is it Sulu? Sulu's got that brown and blue combination going for him, and of course you've got the uniforms, those great uniforms, Uhura and also Scotty, and then Dr. McCoy with that great, as I say, that tan brown, almost like lounge suit, or maybe it's a leisure suit. That's like Peter Cook and Supergirl. This is a leisure suit or something. But anyway, the yes. So break up. You look like a cadet review, and I can know. I totally get the feel. You know when you're in a new place and you don't quite know what to do, and so you just kind of stand around. Just what do I do? Just stand there. You just feel kind of awkward and out of place. I know that feeling. That's such. I completely sympathize with what they're saying. Like, oh, they get the money and gives them the money later. It's $100. So what is it? It's two what? So is it what? 3 teams, right? It's a 3 teams, so it would $100 divided 3 ways. So whatever it would have been 30, right? Is it 3 teams? So 33, 33, 30, 33, 33, 34, 33, $33 and 33. Although I don't think they have exact change, right? So it would have been only in bills. So anyway, so then that leads to a Spock and Kirk's story, and they have to go to Sausalito. And the station incident. There are humpback whales named George and Gracie. How do you know this? Simple logic, which is also because of the side of the bus there, which is a great moment between Kirk and Spock. Incidentally, too, during these scenes, the outdoor scenes, you can see in the distance people just standing and looking. These are people, just ordinary people on the street just looking because they're shooting on location. That's probably the thing anyway. If I were there in San Francisco in broad daylight and you had the film directed by Leonard Nimoy, the crew shooting a scene with Star Trek, I'd be standing and looking like this. Wow, what a cool thing that if that ever were to happen. Um, uh, um, Incidentally, before I forget, I think according to my father, who's no longer alive, but when back in the day, he was working in New York City, and he told my family that around the time that he was walking somewhere in the streets of New York City, outside of his office building, they were shooting a movie, which was called Baby Boom, by starring Diane Keaton. And in fact, later when we saw the film, he we were seeing, or he saw the film, and he says, "Oh, you could see him walking in the background of one of the scenes in Baby Boom." And so, yes, so my father, we don't see his face, so I can't quite 100% confirm it, but it looks like him. So, yeah, so my father apparently made a appearance in one of the scenes in Baby Boom. Do you know where it is? If you can guess, please let me know. But anyway, Baby Boom. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, so Star Trek. Yes, so shooting on location, of course, of course. And of course, this sets all the things in motion. Each of the stories now in the 20th century, now afoot. The game's afoot. So we'll yes, everything's afoot now. So the first story is we'll talk about is we get it's a nice sort of we go from story to story, focusing perhaps almost not almost but somewhat primarily on the Kirk Spock story of trying to find the humpback whales, although we get a little bit of the yellow pages, the importance of the yellow pages here. Remember, yellow pages was a real, it was a thing. And so this was great, and I love the link of how we get the shot of the yellow pages outside of the building there with the fight between that I guess it's a couple. And they're talking, the three of them are talking. I could use me a bit of transparent aluminite. Well, you're a bit too early for that. And so, and then how do they find transparent aluminum or something? They find it in the yellow pages. That's so great. And then that cuts right to Chekhov and Uhura looking through the yellow pages. Yes, did you find? Yes, under U.S. government. Now you have to ask for directions. And it has the nuclear vessels sequence, which is a great sequence. Oh, I think it's across the bay in Alameda. It's Alameda. I know it's out. Where's Alameda? Where's Alameda? I need to go to Alameda. Where is it? Where is it? That's great. It's just, I love that sequence. And that just people were just the theater was by this time, from the time they land in Golden Gate Park, it's just a laugh riot, laughing in the theater. Really, it was what a great moment. And then of course we have one of the classic moments, right? What's his name? It's Kirk Thatcher, right? On the bus. How many megatons, right? I'm sorry, that's the second verse. I'm sorry, however many that's the second verse. But the first part is, right, and I hate you, and I berate you, and I can't wait to get to you. right? And I eschew you, and I say screw you, and I hope you're blue too. Get my bloody weapons. Wow, it's great stuff. Yeah, that's great, great. And incidentally, the lyrics for "I Hate You," those are really sophisticated lyrics. So right, he says, if again, I don't, if anyone knows the lyrics to "I Hate You," please let me know. If please correct me if I'm wrong. But for instance, that second verse part says, as and he says, and I eschew you, right? He says, I eschew you. Is if that's the case, that's a really well, that's an interesting use of language there. Um, what and he also says in the first part, I hate you and I berate you. Well, that's also really interesting as well. So anyway, uh, anyway, I think that's yeah, yeah. I think it's really fast. Does he say that right? I eschew you. Um, I eschew like I'm trying to think. Have I ever heard if indeed that's the case? Have I ever heard a song that uses the word eschew in that way? Um, yeah. Yeah, so but anyway. So that's a great moment, by the way. Yes, and was like, yes, yes, yes. And your language has changed since our arrival. Doubled it's just the way they talk here, right? You'll find in the collectors Jackson Suzanne, and of course I the Giants. Oh, anyway, yes. So, and arrives to the Station Institute, and we have Jillian, and oh, here we go. I love the moment where just before she turns on the guide tour mode. You see she's nervous. I love that little human moment. She's hi, I'm you can call me Jillian, and this is the largest museum devoted to cetacean studies, the study of whales, and talking to at the introduction of the environmental problem of whaling and the threat of extinction, and some really, I think, quite graphic footage that's shown of the whale hunting, etc. So this is bringing that issue home, and also the idea of George and Gracie. And I love the boy. Do whales attack people like in Moby Dick? And he's like, he's very close when he's walking to Jillian, by the way. I don't know, it's that camera, and I think he's got something tied around his waist too. It's not quite, he doesn't have tight, does he have it tied around his shoulders? I don't think so. It's not like David in Star Trek 2, but anyway. And then you have the elderly ladies there, and I think you have the nuns there as well. I love the bit too when they're going to see George and Gracie underground in the tank. They see them from up above, and they go down and they can see them underwater. And this is where Kirk's like, Spock, where are you? And the lady says, maybe he's talking to that man. And you see Spock giving mind meld to right, one of the whales. I don't know. I always thought it was Gracie, but I'm not sure actually. Now that I think about it, I'm not sure if it's either George or Gracie. Who knows? But anyway, um, what is it? And there's a moment where Jillian sees this, and she says, "What the hell?" And right next to her is one of the nuns, and so I thought, and the nun's like, "What's going? Did you say what the?" She doesn't have any of that reaction. So I thought that was I always thought that was an inside joke, that she says "what the hell" right next as she's standing next to one of the nuns. So, but anyway, it goes up, and this is like, oh, they like you very much, but they are not the hell your whales. I suppose they're the hell they did, and this and. Uh, what was it? If I mess up the line, please forgive me, Admiral. If we were to assume that these whales were ours to do as we please, we would be guilty as those who caused their extinction. Caused, past tense. I have a photographic memory. I see words. Quoting a little bit later. Are you sure it's not time for a colorful metaphor? Yes, yes. So that's great. So, and I'm sorry. Yes, Nax here. I've just caught the chat here. Nax here says the Jillian part is where I got invested. Whole movie shifted and took off. Well, yes, that's a really good point, because as I was trying to indicate earlier, but you described it much better than I, is her character brings such a great and different type of energy to the film. It's wonderful. It has that Howard Hawks type of feeling to it. So that's great. It's really, thank you so much, Nax, for that. That's a great comment. And Neil, thank you. Oh, and I got it right. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I didn't prep for that, so I don't have it written down. So thank you so much. I'm so happy I didn't mess. I mess up so many things, but thank you, my dear friend. So, and then we have the introduction of Bob. Oh, Bob. Bob, you know, we've got to, right? I know you like him. I like him too. But, oh gosh, we have to think what's better for that is. I know, Bob. I know. I know. All right, Bob, you don't have to tell me. I know it. And Bob's like, we have to think what's right. I know. You know, after all, I mean, are they really that intelligent? Oh, Bob, don't give me that intelligence stuff, right? Great. Oh, Bob and Julian. Oh, Bob. Okay. All right. So we have that sequence going, and then we have this is in the morning, by the way. We understand. So the crew of the HMS Bounty or Kirk and company, they don't get any sleep, right? So they start off very very early, before sunrise. Off into San Francisco, and then they go in the morning. This is the morning tour, right? And now we understand that they're into the kind of the late afternoon or early evening, or late afternoon perhaps, when Jillian comes by with the pickup truck and sees the two of them. That's a beautiful shot, by the way, of Kirk and Spock walking. And Kirk says, you could lie. I cannot tell a lie. You can exaggerate. Exaggerate. You've done it before, Spock. Exaggerating instead of telling, or exaggerating as a means of maybe telling lies or something. It's, I think, a direct quote to Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, when Savick says to Spock, "You lied. About hours may seem like days. You lied," and he says, "I exaggerated." It's the same words: lying, exaggerating. You've done it before, Spock. Have I? I don't remember. The hell, I can't. So, and is also revealing that in the mind meld, everything, all the information was conveyed. He received information from them, and this is the point where they understand that George and Gracie will be willing to cooperate. So this is a great moment too. The mind meld component is very important. Incidentally, to George and Gracie, San Francisco. I always thought George Sulu is played by a character George Takei. Gracie, I never thought of this before until recently, but San Francisco, a lot of films were shot in San Francisco, such as a James Bond film called A View to a Kill, not 1 year prior. And so Grace Jones was appearing in A View to a Kill that was shot in San Francisco, whereas also the place that was the location for Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, which features a whale, a character, a very key character called Gracie. George and Gracie. Could you imagine George Takei and Grace Jones teaming up to battle all the villains of Star Trek, in the hills of San Francisco? Oh, it'd be so cool. Wow, wow. Sulu and Mayday. Wow, wow. It's awesome. Anyway, all right. And then we have the great moment when Jillian picks up Kirk and Spock as they're walking. She has a thing for hard luck cases, and talking about him. Oh, he's harmless. He was part of this back in the '60s. He was part of the free speech movement at Berkeley, right? And then Kirk says, "I think you did a little bit too much LDS." LDS, and Seth reminds us of that quote earlier in the chat there. So this is a great thing too. Kirk has this great memory for details of history and literature. We find it's like 99.9% perfect, and so that 0.1% is right here, LDS. That's a great moment. So but he almost got it right, so that's brilliant. So then they go and and then we find out too, where right, where is he from? Iowa. Oh, Kirk is from Iowa. We will find out a lot of details about Kirk also as we get into, say, some of the, or maybe some details that are confirmed, let me say, when we get to like this film and other films. Right now he's from Iowa, and Spock was from Berkeley, or actually, as Spock says, no, I was not. So he wasn't from Berkeley. So he didn't go to Berkeley, and so he's got that. And we also, Jillian has a tire iron where she can get at it, so don't try anything funny. And I also love the agitation that Jillian feels when she's asked about the whales and what will happen to the whales. You see the agitation on her when she's her hands on the wheel, and she's like, if when they're released, they're going to have to take their chances. She's talking about George and Gracie as they're released into the open sea, and so that is you can tell that she really, really loves these whales. And so and what were you doing back there? And she's really genuinely curious. Why did they do this at this particular time? And then suddenly Spock says, Gracie is pregnant. How do you know that? And so that's the whole thing where it's her curiosity is piqued. And so he says, you're not actually, you're not really catching us at our best. That much is certain. And so, right, will you let us talk to you? She thinks about it and she says, right, what did she say? Do you guys like Italian? Yes, no, yes, no, no, yes, no, no, yes. I love Italian, and so do you. Yes. It's probably got one of the biggest laughs in the theater. That's just the funniest. This could be also maybe one of my. I mentioned to the stealing of the Enterprise in part 3 as probably my most played back moments. This is also up there on maybe the top 5. This moment, I love this moment. Spock, I just yes, no, yeah, no, that interaction between William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, that no, yes, no, no, yes, no. I love it. No. And I don't know if this was, probably this was meant to be, but I didn't mention it in the discussion of part 3, but I love how the lines, there's so many uh, lines that come back, and there's a lovely type of echo of things. Um, um, to borrow a phrase from George Lucas when he's talking about not Star Trek, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, like they rhyme, things rhyme, right? So, but that's really the case here with Star Trek because, for example, in Star Trek 2, there's a line where at the end of that film, McCoy asks Kirk on the bridge, "Are you okay, Jim? How do you feel?" And Jim says, or Jim Kirk says, "Young. I feel young." So there's the question, "How do you feel?" That question does come up later in this film, actually, Star Trek 4. Also, remember at that really poignant moment between Kirk and Spock at the end of Star Trek 2, the death of Spock. And I have been and always shall be your friend. Live long and prosper. And then he dies. And then Kirk says, "No, no." And then at the end of Star Trek 3, what does he say, right? Uh, Spock says to Jim over there on Mount Seleia on Vulcan, he says, "Jim, your name is Jim." And what does Kirk say? "Yes." That's the end of the film. That's the last line of dialogue, spoken dialogue in the film, Star Trek 3. Yes, I love that. The closing moment of their time together when he died was Kirk said no. And now they have been reunited here at the end of Star Trek 3. Kirk says, "Yes, no, yes." And then it kind of comes full circle in a really comic way when they're asked, "Do you guys like Italian?" "Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, no, yes, I love Italian. And so do you." Yes. I don't know if that was meant to be, but even if it wasn't, I think that's really cool. The way that Kirk Spock relationship and the whole thing with yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Anyway, and then that goes from that to the I'm sorry, I forgot. Before that, it was just prior to them seeing Jillian in the pickup truck. We also understand that Uhura and Chekhov talks to them on the communicator, although he was instructed not to use the communicator except in emergency situations. But I guess this is an emergency situation or an important situation where they say they've found the ship, the kind of I guess it's type of right. It's the naval vessel, and so they can beam in and get the photons and beam out. And Admiral, it is the Enterprise, and so they'll do it later that night. So that's that plot going forward, and then now the Kirk Spock plot is going forward, and then. While this is going on, Kirk, they go to the Italian restaurant, but I guess Spock really doesn't like Italian food. So, or I know he's probably busy. He needs to handle other things on the Bird of Prey. But then he decides at Latin, at least we assume that he goes to Golden Gate Park. He's just going to say, yeah, that's his way. He just beams aboard without Jillian seeing, and then they go to the restaurant here. And then you have the mushroom pepperoni with extra onions, is it? And then Michelob, all the same. Excellent choice, yes. Make that two, and then you have the great talk between the two of them. And are you a doctor? It's like, oh, I don't know. You want to take it from the top? That's great. And they want the truth, right? And then talking about what his mission is. I come from what on your calendar would be the late 20th century. I've come back in time to some whales with me to in an attempt to repopulate the species. That's great. Well, why didn't you say so? Yeah, what's with all the right? Right, okay. Not only is your friend's right, not only is she pregnant, Gracie, she's very pregnant. At noon tomorrow, they are gonna go out. Noon tomorrow? Oh gosh. And right, and then they have to leave early and say, oh, don't tell me they don't have money until Wednesday. Well, we don't. Sorry, So she's got to pay for that too. So all right, all right. But and I love too at Golden Gate Park at night later between Jillian and Kirk, and Jillian's like, who right? Um, um, just really questioning what's going on. And I love the detail about Kirk actually has the pizza box and he just walks out with the pizza. I love that. But while this is happening, of course, now let us get to one of my favorite moments. Plexicorp. Plexicorp. Dr. Nichols, right? I can't believe I come, millions of no thousands of miles, right, and then so I demand no, and then Dr. Nichols, the head of the plant, has agreed to give him a personally guided tour. Oh, he has. May my assistant join us? Oh, certainly. Don't bury yourself in the part. Oh, great. And you call him the miracle worker, and he says, do you have a computer? Ah, hello computer. Let's use the keyboard. Oh, keyboard. How quaint. It's just like how he feels about the USS Excelsior. Am I right? Am I right? Oh, gosh, I wouldn't want to be that computer, right? About the bolts. Oh, gosh. But anyway, there he is typing away. And I love, too, I love how Scotty is typing on that keyboard. It's so, very light touch. It's great, right? He's just, da, 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 da. That, whatever program is in that Macintosh. That is an amazing Macintosh. I mean, that's amazing, right? Oh gosh, all the stuff that they can do with a Macintosh. But anyway, at the end of the day, here we have it. The matrix, the computer graphic matrix for what is described as, and again, I can't do Dr. Nichols' impression any justice, but I'll do my best. I quit smoking. Transparent aluminum? Dr. Nichols. Oh, I love you, Dr. Nichols. And of course, right, this is the moment. Right? Open the door. Not now, Madeline. Right? Not now, Madeline. Paris, the red coat, Madeline. My goodness, what a great sequence here it is. And this is also introducing a type of a time loop related paradox, which is an interesting concept in terms of time travel and time travel stories. The idea is that if they, Bones and Scotty, give the formula of transparent aluminum to Dr. Nichols, they run the risk of changing the course of time. And then Scotty very nonchalantly says, "Hi, how do we know he didn't invent the thing?" And Bones like, "Oh yeah. That's the one of the best ways of explaining this type of time paradox. That's great." And so this is good. And I think also now it's in the Star Trek history books, right? That the invention of transparent aluminum is credited to Dr. Nichols, I think. And so, and I also understand that maybe the story was that he was visited by two strangers one day, something like. But anyway, yes. So that's the story of transparent aluminum. So that's and it's made very quickly, by the way, I should say. Right, because it's only a matter of, it's not even weeks, it's like not even days, it's just hours. It's between getting the formula and then being able to get some pieces of transparent aluminum. But I guess that's the price that they're paying in order to give him. They give him the formula, and so he gives them a lot of attention in terms of creating pieces of transparent aluminum for purpose of creating the whale tank on the bird of prey. So that's all this stuff is going into motion. And then, in the meantime, Sulu is getting information about the Huey helicopter, and so this is a reminder too that Sulu is also a pilot as well. So that's really wonderful, and so that, of course, is going to come into handy later because we see later the helicopter shot, Sulu piloting the helicopter, which we understand is carrying the sheets of the transparent aluminum to Golden Gate Park. That's a great moment. The way that the helicopter glides across the water there, it reminds me of, there's reference, I think, our dear friend Scott C. In the chat for Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 3 was making reference to the towering inferno and Kirk's apartment in San Francisco. And so this shot of the helicopter and Sulu piloting also reminds you of the very beginning of the towering inferno. And what's his name? Paul Newman's character. What's his name? Doug. I think his name. No, is it right? Oh gosh, my memory's failing me today. But he's piloting the helicopter, and the wonderful me da 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 da, and then Steve McQueen and Paul Newman's name. They're sort of jagged. They're not on the same line there. That's very on purpose. But anyway, um, so those are the plot lines going forward with that. And there's also the plot line. It gets kind of into a slightly ominous or darker turn in the next part with the issue with Chekhov, and then also what happens to the whales. But before we get to that, let me now go to the chat. And how are you on time? We're good for time. Great, great. Okay. Oh, Roger says you just married. You're married. Okay. Well, congratulations, Roger. Wow. Congratulations. Wow. 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 Congratulations. Oh, wow. W Forge is here. Hello, it's nice to see you as always. Not now, Madeline. Was that thing in 80s movies to have someone have a walk on in a film? It could have been. I'm not sure. Maybe. I don't know if it's exclusive to 80s films, but it does happen, right? Yeah. Yeah. Neo Blissy says, in fact, a cut question for Spock's memory test referenced Dr. Nichols' invention, quote unquote, of transparent balloon. Oh, Optimus got slimed is here. Hello. Oh, Schlock Horror, thank you. Doug Roberts, thank you. Yes, yes, Doug, thank you, thank you. Oh, well done. And I'm glad I didn't say Duncan, and I didn't mix up his character's name with that of William Holden. So Jim Duncan, right? That's his name. Right. Okay. Um, Hold on. Let's see. Lane says, "There be whales here." Yes, that's another great line. Um, Though Seth Wall says Vulcans and a half row pizza pies. That's a reference to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Incidentally, when I was in UK in the late 80s and early 90s, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was a real hit among kids. Although the cartoon, when it was broadcast on UK TV, wasn't called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but it was called Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. And all references to the nunchucks or the nunchaku of Michelangelo were, I understand, omitted or deleted from all episodes because I think this was a concern of the powers that be at British government and broadcasting to not show or make references to ninja or nunchuck. I think the story was for fear that children might replicate this and maybe cause injury to themselves and others. I think that was the story. But anyway, it was called Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles in the United Kingdom, at least when I was there in the late 80s, early 90s. But yes, what was the name of the villain there? Splinter, right? Um, Although I have mentioned it before, but I'll say it again. Leonardo was the leader. But when you got to the movie, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie, you had the song. You had, what was it, in the lyric there? Um, right? It was like Raphael, he was brooding at the beginning. I lost my sigh. Oh gosh, I lost my sigh. And then the song, right? Teenage Mutant, right? Raphael, he's the leader of the group, transformed from the norm by the nuclear goop. So it was the line that indicated that Raphael was the leader. It wasn't Leonardo, which was a shock to me when I was however old I was when that film came out. That was really shocking. And that film also had April O'Neil and Casey Jones and anyway. And but also I remember Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. I love that film, Secret of the Ooze and Vanilla Ice and Go Ninja, Go Ninja Go and Ninja Ninja Rap. There's a shot of David Warner. And we're speaking of Star Trek. David Warner has some deep connections with the Star Trek universe, so it is kind of relevant. There's a shot of David Warner's character going like "Go Ninja, Go Ninja." That's like the best moment of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze for me. But anyway, I digress. All right. Oh, Floydian Pink is here. Hello. Oh, your comments so nice as always. Thank you so much. Thank you. Um, yes. Oh, Neo Blissy, thank you for confirming this as well. You're a source of so much knowledge. Yes, exactly. Lots of ninja iconography were indeed censored in the UK back in the day. Thank you so much. Yes, I wasn't wrong on that. Thank you. Thank you. Um, oh, thank you so much, my dear. That makes me very happy to for your comment. Yes, and those of others. Thank you. W Forge, yes, I like the way the hand wave, the danger of changing the timeline with. Well, yeah. Well, how do we know when you didn't invent the thing? Yes, I just love. Yes, exactly, exactly. You're absolutely right. It's the perfect type of. That's the perfect Star Trek 4 moment. You know, just have fun with it. And yeah, of course, yeah, for sure. Well, oh yeah, okay. And I love also Dr. McCoy's reaction. Oh yeah, he's just so happy. Yeah. Anyway, so. Let's see. Yeah, so now let's proceed forward here. So now we have all these further plot points in motion, and everything is moving along. Except now there are a couple of hiccups that occur. Right. So one of the hiccups is, well, first of all, before we get to those hiccups, I love to. I mentioned earlier the moment between Bones and Spock before they or as they're before they go back in time, and it's like, I'm hearing a lot of distress calls. You know, you really have gone where no man has gone. So that moment too is a type of solidification of the old tried and true Bones Spock relationship. So that's one thing. Although I do have some misgivings about, be a little bit more grateful about the Katra. But anyway, so that's one thing. And then also, Kirk is so frustrated because now, these whales are right. He's so frustrated. And and then Spock very coldly says, it would certainly, we wouldn't be able to accomplish our mission. No mission, we're talking about the lives of every man, woman, Earth. Don't you have any kind of feelings about that? And everyone's stopping, and Bones and Scotty stop, and they take off their goggles and they're looking, and Spock's like, Kirk got angry at him and frustrated, and this is a really key moment in that nuanced character arc in terms of how do you feel. This is the how do you feel plot line being progressed forward. So this is also very important here. But now, yes, we also have the Uhura Chekhov moment, and all the photons or the energy is now absorbed, and then Uhura goes first, and then but unfortunately there's not enough power at the time to beam out Chekhov in time, so he is apprehended and caught by the authorities there, and they are of course very very suspect. What is he doing here? And he's very upfront about who he is and his credentials and identification. He tries to escape, and and the very jubilant music once again kicks in, but it's again in the shadows in the nighttime, and then he falls. And I mentioned earlier about how this was a moment that really shocked me, especially when we looked at the photo book of Star Trek 4 as a kid, and that I've reached that moment where we get to this moment where we see Chekhov falling, and then you see the shot of him lying on the ground there in the light, and it's like something out of, I don't know, like an Orson Welles movie or something. It's lit like that, like it's Mr. Arkadin or something. But it's really it really scared me as a kid. And so and Chekhov, well, poor Chekhov, this is doom and gloom in that one shot. And we find out later that he's going to be transported to Mercy Hospital, and he's not expected to survive, according to Uhura. And you can feel the emotion in her voice when she's doing that. What in the meantime, of course, it is now the early morning the next day, and at the Cetacean Institute, what's going to happen now? We know Jillian arrives early morning, but the tanks are empty. Oh, and that good da-dun. Bob, what are you doing, Bob? What are you doing? What does he say? The media circus would have been bad for him, and also he thought that this would be good for her to let them go without her having the ability to say goodbye to them. And he says, we thought this would be better for you. Are you kidding me, Bob? Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness. And then of course, yeah, you son of a, oh, of course, Bob, of course, gosh. And I love the bit too where she walks out and you see the guy outside like cleaning with the water spray there, and she does a little on the car there, like that, and she goes and she's panicking. What can she do? What can you do? And she remembers, right, what Kirk said to her the night before: if there's anything happens, just come to Golden Gate Park. I'll be here. And so that's her only resort. That's the last resort, right? So she goes there. Admiral Kirk, Admiral. Admiral Kirk, and this is just at the point where the transparent aluminum is being inserted into the top. Admiral Kirk, Admiral, we have a problem, right? So it's great, and then right, it's great, and and I remember this still too, the shot of Jillian being at the moment where she is beamed aboard the ship. This is also a picture that was in that photo book that I was referring to earlier. So and I was so fascinated as a kid. And we see a little bit of this in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, where you could actually have voices and talking in transportation beam. Remember, there was they had a conversation between Savick and Kirk while they're being transported from inside the Regula cave back onto the Enterprise. We were immobilized, just as Captain Spock said. I'll go buy the book. I'm taking people to Sippy. Oh, buy the book, right? So they were talking in mid transport there. It's like here, it's like I don't know about you, but I would love to be like. Could you imagine having coffee with your friend in a coffee shop somewhere and just be like coffee and like just transport and like still have a conversation as you're transporting from table to table? Oh, that would be so cool. Oh, so what were you doing last Sunday? I was having there was a barbecue. Oh, it was a barbecue. Oh, that was a barbecue. And then we had the bar, and there was a nice. I mean, they cooked they had a nice cake there. What kind of? Oh, it was a chiffon. Oh, it's great. Transport a cafe. I'm there. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? I didn't mention this too. It's Star Trek 2. But remember the quote from Dr. Marcus: "Can I cook or can't I?" I would say yes. I think you can cook. Yes, that's great. You know, anyone who can make that brilliant Regula cave. Yes, yes. Not David. I don't know, right? Was it Carol Marcus's idea to use proto matter or not? I'm not sure. But maybe David, if you're using that same metaphor, maybe David's not such a good cook as Carol Marcus. But anyway, could you imagine then using that as a backdrop? Carol Marcus opens her restaurant. Like Dr. Marcus's or something like that. Go there to the restaurant, and the whole gimmick is you can have coffee and you can beam from table to table, drinking coffee with your friends and talk in mid beam. That would be so cool. Except um, I don't want any Commander Sonak incidents happening there. You know what I mean? You know what? Anyway. All right. So we have all this situation with Jillian now on board. Now she's like, "Hello, Alice. Welcome to Wonderland." And now she has stepped. Oh, it's true. Compose herself, and she says, "The whales are gone." Oh, hold on. Let me just give me 1 second here while I plug in the power. It's just like it's probably the whale probe. The whale probe is now traveling overhead and it's depleting my phone of power. There we go. I hope that's okay. Yep. There we go. Okay. So what was I saying? Yes. So the all right. So I hope that's okay. Let's see. I'm going to do another Saratoga reference. If you hear me, come in, please. Come in, please. You hearing me? Okay, good. Okay. Great, thank you. Neo says it was David. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. How's the sound? Is the sound okay? Thank you, Erwin. Yes. I still remember those shoelace comments from the James Bond live streams, by the way. And so excellent stuff. So anyway, yes. So now we have all the crises points coming together. The whales have gone, and now they're in the open sea, now under risk of attack and death. Also, we have one of the crew now missing, and also threat of death, Chekhov. And so, what are they going to do? And now it's another the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one moments. Which is great. And this is where Spock's "How do you feel?" plot line also kicks into high gear, and he says, we must help Chekhov. Is that the logical thing to do? No, no, but it is the human thing to do. The needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many moments. This is why Star Trek is so great. This is why I love Star Trek. Or moments like this. And then Dr. McCoy says, um, uh, I've got to go. Don't leave him Chekhov in the hands of 20th century medicine. That's what he said. He has his medical kit. Now, I don't know how he got his medical bag, because if you remember in Star Trek 3, he was in custody. And so he didn't have his medical kit at the time. At least I don't recall. I don't think he beamed down with a medical kit when they beamed down to the Genesis planet. So my assumption is either he was able to assemble something while he was on Vulcan. That's probably what happened, right? So so anyway, he has his medical kit, and they now beam down to Mercia Hospital. So three of them, Jillian, Kirk, and Bones, and we've got to look like doctors. And I love that cut to that, just immediate. Let's go. I love that. It's great. And they're going in there in that actual hospital, and here's Bones' moment to shine. Right, with the woman in kidney dialysis. Dialysis. What is this? The Dark Ages. You take that, swallow that. Any problems? Call me. Go to try to find it, and it's like talking about what is it? I forget the doctor's names, but they're the elevator talking about image therapy versus radical chemotherapy. Oh, it sounds like the goddamn Spanish Inquisition. It's like a bad day. It's just going in there. So this is the great talking about the ill choice of fundoscopic examinations are non-revealing in cases like these, right? The artery must be repaired. Now put away your butcher knives and let me save this man before it's too late. And oh, it's great. And then we've got the moment where I love how apparently Chekhov essentially is maybe like he's thought to be like a spy or something, who's caught aboard a U.S. naval vessel, and he's also in the hospital. But they only have two police officers on duty on the door, and even when the police officers, oh yeah, oh you can go in, and they just close it. They don't ask any questions or anything. But anyway, okay. So whoever's on guard there on Mercy Hospital, I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, we've got another shot of the phaser. This is also an interesting point too. The phasers are very, very rarely used in this film, and that's also an instance too where we get a lot of profanity, we get a lot of the swear words and stuff like that, but we don't get the use of the phasers to kill anyone or anything like that. Of course, Chekhov tried it, but it failed because it must be the radiation. Or here we have the use of the phaser, not on anyone, but to melt the lock. Oh, he melted the lock. That doctor. Oh, that doctor. Fundoscopic examination. Oh, all right. So, that's an interesting point here, which is the idea of the way in which this type of violence is shown or not shown in this film. And I think also that technically speaking, we don't get any casualties here. At least, hopefully those people who are trying to put the suction cups on the windows there in the Starfleet when it exploded, I hope they're okay. Also, I'm assuming that the people on the Yorktown and the Saratoga are also okay after the probe leaves. But okay. So, yes. So now we have the hijinks of the escape from the hospital. Oh, doctor gave me a pill and I grew a new kidney. Doctor, fully functional. And they go through. There's a great moment. There's all this stuff going on, and they're like, look out, according to Jillian. And then, one little mistake. Oh, it's great. And the music. The kidney. They go into the elevator there. There's a great moment where they go in, they swerve down the hall, and there's a guy on crutches and a cast, and he falls over on the couch there on the side there. And I love how Jillian and Kirk, of course, they're on a hurry, they have to escape. But Bones, he takes the time to stop and like, are you okay? To the guy in the cast there in the crutches when he falls over the sofa. That's a great McCoy moment. He's a doctor. He cares. He cares about people. Wow. Even as they're trying to escape and they're going down to the stairs, and we're not there. The cops are going down the stairs. They're the police, right? The San Francisco police. They're not Navy officers, but they're police, I think. And then they go down the stairs because they understand that they're going down to the elevator. Dun 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 dun. Freeze. Dun 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 dun. And then they go onto the ship, and we've got that lovely exchange between Jillian and Kirk, and they beam aboard. And you tricked me, you need me. Took a seat, and goes in, and then he finds they use 401 megahertz, right? That's the frequency to use to track the uh, the um, the whales, and they're on their way to fly. And I love those flying aerial shots through the clouds. It reminds they're fast motion. It's very similar to the aerial shots that we saw used at Star Trek 2 and also the beginning of Star Trek 2. Incidentally, there is some reused footage from Star Trek 3. Not a lot, but some. The shot early on in the film of the exterior of the cockpit area of the bird of prey is the same shot that we saw used in Star Trek 3, and also a shot of the cloak, the bird of prey going in cloak after it arrives back in time. In the nighttime skies of San Francisco, the cloak into the cloak mode of the bird of prey is a similar shot, or the same shot, I think, that we saw of the ship going into cloak just before the Enterprise arrives at the Genesis planet. So in Star Trek 3. So, and we see a lot of recycled shots going between and among the films, but those are some examples there. All right, so now we get this really very terrible situation, or potentially terrible situation of already George and Gracie already out, not just a few hours, and already they're being hunted. And so it's a whaling ship. Oh my goodness, are we too late? This is according to Jillian. Da 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 da. The ship goes into like da da da, like that, right? That's great. Going down like that, going down like that. Oh, I can see my Beatles thing. Okay, then go there, and then it's a great moment with this. So I have a pencil here, and this is the whaling ship harpoon of some sort, and it goes boom, and then we have here. We have the moment of the ship being decloaked above the whaling vessel. And it's wow, this is I remember as a kid, I was fascinated by this because rarely do you get to see a Star Trek ship, in a situation other than a space field. And so we have it hovering above this small vessel. I don't know, did they, I'm assuming, right? I looked at it. I think they got the scale right. Again, I'm not sure. I think they got the scale right. But, right, those little details aside, assuming that they are correct, even if they aren't correct, still, what a moment this is. Again, seeing the bird of prey, the bird of play, the bird of prey decloak, right, in the middle of, right, above the ocean. Wow, what a great sequence this is. And then the beaming aboard of George and Gracie. It's not just the whales, it's the water, right? 400 tons, right? And then the great quote here. It's oft quoted, right? Admiral, there be whales here. And I love the quote he says to full power now, sir. And then they are off and running. That's great. So they're off and running and trying to make their final calculations. So all the problems have been solved. The whales are beamed aboard on the now constructed whale tank in the cargo area of the bird of prey. And now the crystals have been, we understand, properly re-energized or restructured in order to be able to have enough energy to leave the Earth's gravitational pull, and also have enough energy to do one more sun slingshot time warp effort to go back home. So everything's in motion, and they have a nice moment to relax. D.H. Lawrence again, Kirk, my goodness, yeah, not pulling out all the stops, right? And D.H. Lawrence, and you can see it. Oh, whales weep not. D.H. Lawrence. Oh, that's great. It's a miracle, Mr. Miracle. A miracle. It's something. Yeah, he's saying, well, we might not survive this. And then this leads to the final slingshot moment where everything's essentially falling apart, and he goes back to the bridge while Scotty and Jillian stay behind with the whales. And then now it's a final moment where some issues have arisen. So this means that Spock needs to be given thruster control, and he gives thruster. Kirk commands that they listen to Spock's command timing, and steady now, and they go back. And I love the sun design here. The sun design here reminds me of how the sun kind of looked in, maybe it's not quite the same, but it looks similar to the way the sun was designed in a film called Superman the movie, the Richard Donner film. But now they're back, and then now are we back? And they hear the sound of the probe, and everything's back. Yes, and I love the moment where we go back to the point in time where Starfleet is almost just in chaos. Get him back! Get him back! Admiral Carter and everything. The suction cup glass thing explodes with. But then we've Sarek. Sarek is like, the WTF face that Sarek has. Oh, we're dead. We're dead. And oh, look, and he sees, and you can see the thing, and they're headed for the bridge, according to Admiral Cartwright. So here's what is it? I used to have a little Klingon bird of prey toy. I think it was Hot Wheels. I think they released those back in the day, but they had a little set of them. I had one. I loved those as a kid. Those little plastic models of all the ships. I didn't. I wish I kept those. I don't have them anymore. But they had the bird of prey. So bird of prey flies under the Golden Gate Bridge. Wow, in the cloud storm. Wow, and it crash lands. Sulu. Yes. Oh gosh. And so making sure everything, he said, I got used to a Huey, he says, but right, he was able to switch back into gears into a Klingon bird of prey mode just in time to be able to pilot that thing right through under the bridge. Brilliant stuff. Landing on the surface of the water, and then now it's all crash landed, powers out because of the probe. Everything's chaos, everything's going to pieces. What are they going to do? They got to escape. They go through the manual escape hatch up top, but Jillian and Scotty are trapped in the cargo bay. So Kirk has to go down, and everything's sinking. So he's got, I'm here, Scotty, I'm here. And he's trying to open the door with Kirk on one side and Scotty and Jillian on the other, with the whales as well, trapped as well. Admiral, you'll be trapped. Incidentally, there's a thing with doors in Star Trek, which I really love. I didn't mention it, but you remember in Star Trek, the motion picture, after the after this Starship Enterprise leaves the dry dock, and it leaves en route to intercept the V'ger cloud. There's a moment where in the engineering section you see the doors closing, and a guy just walks, like glides, rushes by just as the doors close. Remember that? I thought that was so cool. So there's something about doors in Star Trek which I really like. But here we have another door opening it, and then now swimming underwater. Kirk, heroic mode. Oh, William Shatner, right? Say what you will about him, but he delivers so much heft, so much like epicness and physicality. It's great, including here. He's swimming underwater. He's got to go. His eyes open. It's kind of greenish water. He's got to pull the lever. You cut to his face. I mentioned in Star Trek 3 that Kirk and William Shatner look so Michael Myers-y. Here, there's a shot underwater. He's trying to pull the lever. This is also the ultimate Michael Myers look of William Shatner in this particular film. He's able to pull the lever, and we see the overhead shot of the doors opening, and it's not like air bubbles, but it's like white milk bubbles that come through for whatever. Why are they white milk bubbles? I don't know, but they open, and we understand this is the release to release the hatch, or to release the bay doors to allow the whales to escape from the inside of the ship, and now they're free. And they're not walking. They're out and open in the waters there, while the probe is overhead, and and then now why don't they answer? Why don't they sing? Right, and so this leads to the underwater sequence, and it's long. It's great how long this is. The the conversation between probe and the whales. I don't know which whale is it, George or Gracie. I'm not sure, but there's the great moment. It's not just like one thing and it's over. It's long. It's prolonged. I love this. I love how it takes its time and doing this. And here's my glasses case here, but this is the whale underwater. I love how it goes vertical, and you go get a shot of the eye, and it also has a shot of the vertical stance of the probe up in space, and the ping pong ball. Oh, it's so great. That's so great. And it's just, and you wonder what they were saying. I think there was a idea of having subtitles for this particular sequence, but I think it's much better without subtitles. It's much better as it is, because there's so much to assume what they're saying. This is the stuff I love about Star Trek. I really love this about Star Trek. All the way up to now, it can be said that the climax sequences of each of these films, for the most part, doesn't involve any huge final fight or battle. Maybe the closest thing that comes to an exception to that is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. But arguably, that film is dealing not with, say, the Enterprise shooting at the USS Reliant and the USS Reliant exploding, but rather the USS Reliant is on a self-destruct and the Enterprise has to escape. So that is a type of self-defense maneuver. So arguably, it still can, I think, fall within this general category of not having these say shows of force type of climax moment. They are there. Don't get me wrong. They are there. The crew Kirk fight battle is, I think, indeed an example of that. But even in that case, the Star Trek 3 climax is arguably the moment where Kirk and Spock reunite. And so I'm not saying that these films are totally bereft of these types of action adventure moments. What I am saying is usually the climax moment tends to be this moment of like solving a problem or taking time to meet Kirk or Spock again, or trying to escape to defend oneself, or in this instance, the whales talking to the probe. It's just wow, what a great moment, and just hangs on this moment. I just love. Or in Star Trek: The Motion Picture, everyone's trying to figure out figure out exactly the mystery of V'ger, all the problem solving in that film. That's great stuff. This is why I love Star Trek. And so that we understand then that the message has been transmitted to the probe, whatever that is specifically. The probe understands. The ping pong ball goes back into the Tootsie Roll tube, and now it goes back, and now it's flying off, and everything is going to be restored. The space dock is now back. The lights are on. Everything is now, the power is being restored, and the cloud cover is now subsiding. Everything is now, the sun is shining through, and things are restored, and it is glorious. It is absolutely glorious. Wow, what's great. This is so great. And I love this. And there's a moment where they're just they see the distance, the whales jumping out of the, jumping out of the water, and the music, and da 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 da, and they're just swimming and jumping into the, and Jillian falls in, and Chekhov, and so, and I love Scotty. He just kind of like jumps in almost like a belly flop type of dive. I love it. It's great. And there's a little struggle between Kirk and Spock, and you see Spock. He's like, he hates being in the water apparently. There's a moment before too where Kirk's just slapping the water, just so happy, just slaps the water. When I was a kid, like taking baths, in the bathtub, just when you're a kid, you just like to have, you just like slap just you're just having fun, you're so happy, you just slap the water. It's that type of kid moment. You're so happy, just like everything's worked out, a happy ending, and you see the ship, and then now we have the coda. You have the wonderful coda of the Federation and the Council, because now we know Kirk and company need to answer for what the violations that they are accused of. And so we have all of them standing, including Spock, who doesn't stand accused, but he says, I stand with my shipmates, as you wish. And they are charged with certain violations that are named. Incidentally, I love the moment where it talks about sabotage of the USS Excelsior, and it's on Scotty at that moment. Scotty, James Doohan's expression, he looks to the side like he's so frustrated almost. I love that moment. I love it. It's great. And then, right, how do you plead, right? And then Kirk says, on behalf of all of us, I'm authorized to plead guilty, as you wish. Due to certain mitigating circumstances, all but one of the charges are summarily dismissed or summarily dropped. The remaining charge, disobeying orders of a direct command, it lays solely on Admiral Kirk, right? Admiral Kirk, I'm sure you recognize the need for discipline in the chain of command. I do, sir. And so Admiral Kirk, is now being subject to disciplinary measures. And what are those disciplinary measures, according to the council president? Admiral Kirk is to be demoted to Captain Kirk, and then Captain Kirk, as a result of such demotion, will be given a command of a starship. Wow. This is the arc of the story that was all the way back in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, and indeed, arguably, Star Trek: The Motion Picture, all the way back to those scenes where Admiral Kirk back then was struggling to get the command of the Starship Enterprise from Admiral Nagura. for purpose of confronting the V'ger probe. Same thing too with Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. This is a direct link to that scene between Kirk and McCoy in Kirk's apartment early on in that film. Get back your command. Get back, before you really do grow old. And this is the response to that scene. He has gotten back his command through, of course, certain circumstances that may have been beyond his control. Grant you that, but still, he has gotten back his command. You can see you can see the little smile. Everyone's smiling, clapping. Oh, it's great. Oh, da 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 da. Everything is back to normal. And also, we assume too. We'll see later that based on this, we understand that maybe he's able to choose which crew members he'd like to serve with, and other people. Captain Spock, right? He's Captain Spock. Although maybe because of his return, maybe he too is. I'm not sure. But in any event, now this means too, by extension, the crew is back. All the way through these films, the crew was never quite assembled. It was assembled, of course, for motion picture, but under extraordinary circumstances. The same could be said for Star Trek 2, and certainly for Star Trek 3 and Star Trek 4. But now, at the end of Star Trek 4, everything is back. Everything, or almost everything. One important detail we'll get to momentarily, but everything is back, save for that one detail. So it's a miracle. It's really a miracle. But it doesn't end there too. We have the final moments between Jillian and Kirk, which I mentioned earlier. Jillian, wow, what a character she is! Just like see across the galaxy, right? Oh, bye. Thanks a lot, Kirk. Bye. Don't call us, we'll call you. That's great. And then, of course, the final moment between Sarek and Spock. This is one of the most complex relationships in all of Star Trek. That between father and son, Sarek and Spock. It is, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing to think all the way back from, say, Journey to Babel, and then leading through like yesteryear and elsewhere, and then of course Star Trek 3 and Star Trek 4, and then we'll see it, of course, really be emotionally powerful in some episodes of The Next Generation. But here we have furthering of that, and your friends are people of good, your colleagues are people of good character, right? And they are my friends. I'm glad he said that, especially if you've seen Journey to Babel, right? He really should have a lot of gratitude, I think, based on what happens. But anyway, then the last final moment, the final punchline, essentially emotional punchline. Do you have a message for your mother? Asks Eric, and Spock says yes. Tell her I feel fine. Live long and prosper, Father. Live long and prosper, my son. Ah, wow. The question has been answered. How do you feel? I feel fine. That carries so much. All of the emotion, all the intensity of all these films, even especially in, one can say also the motion picture. It's all loaded in that particular moment. How do you feel? I feel fine. What does Kirk say at the end of Star Trek 2? I said it earlier. I feel young. Here, I feel fine. Oh, everything comes full circle in the simple 3-word sentence. Bravo. Bravo, bravo. This is cinematic brilliance. Star Trek brilliance, cinematic brilliance. This is brilliant. Genius. And to top it off, those trousers that they're wearing as they walk off, Kirk and Spock. Oh gosh, I want those pants. Yeah, I want to wear those pants too. And gosh, oh great. And then they walk off, and then the final reveal, they go back to the space out, and then that great quote, the bureaucratic mentality is the only constant in the universe. We'll get a freighter. And then we get the, of course, Sulu and his love for the Excelsior. I'm counting on Excelsior. Excelsior! Why in devil would you want that bucket of bullshit? Right, I will be done. Right, so of course, Sulu loves the Excelsior. Scotty, maybe not so much. Ship. We see the Excelsior, right, and then we see what do we see? We hear the music. Dun, 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 dun. The Enterprise. The Enterprise A. The Enterprise A. Yes. This is great. My friends, we've come home. The Voyage Home. Star Trek The Voyage Home. This is really a voyage home in a lot of respects. Not only is it a voyage home for Kirk and crew from Vulcan, traversing time and space, but it is also a voyage home in many respects. This is a voyage home that is like what? Like nearly 20 years in the making, almost, if you think about it, because since the end of the third season of the series, of course, we had the animated series, which is brilliant, by the way. If you haven't checked out Star Trek the animated series, you've got to check it out. It's great. But since the end of the so-called 5-year mission, all the way throughout the so-called maybe years of no Star Trek, there could have been a film. There wasn't. There could have been strips. It wasn't. Phase 2 could have been a thing. It turned into plans to turn it into film. It ended up being this almost really hectic production story that ended up being a great film that is Star Trek the Motion Picture, mind you. But even in that film, as I say, everything's not quite together yet in terms of the crew and the story. But now, after all this time, all this weight, all these wonderful stories. Everything has happened so much: life, death, resurrection, destruction, reunion, everything, highs, lows, and everything in between. After all that's happened for all this expanse of nearly 20 years, right? The crew have finally come home. My friends, we've come home. That sentence speaks volumes. And they go into this such a blinding white shining light bridge, and you hear the and then yes, let's see what she's got. Dun, 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 shoo, and it goes into the wonderful montage I mentioned earlier, which is the great dun dun dun, the great sequence. Ah, yes. And I love the montage too, because the montage is almost like a replay of the entire film. Oh, it's beautiful stuff. Absolutely beautiful stuff. So, um, this is a Star Trek film that is, I think, has a potential for such a wide audience, and I think it showed in its box office and critical reception at the time, and even going forward. This is a very popular film, as it deserves to be. It has so many lovely moments that I think people who are, say, casual Star Trek fans, or also very intense Star Trek fans, expert Star Trek fans, everyone can enjoy. This is a film for, and it also expands the universe. We get more details, more things that are great. Classic lines. The song "I Hate You." Oh, what a great song! I eschew you. I don't really. I don't. I'm just quoting the song. I think everyone here is great. I'm just quoting the song, but also the, right. Right, I'm starting to. I've already. I'm just. Words are failing me. Words are failing me in terms of the brilliance of this film, Star Trek for the Voyage Home. Everything is fitting into place so perfectly, and it's great. And they're off on their adventure, and their next adventure, we assume, will be something that'll bring us to Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait to be able to talk about Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. It's not my favorite of the films, that's for sure, but there is so much stuff, so much great stuff to talk about Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. I cannot wait. Next week, next Sunday, my friends, let's talk about that. But in the meantime, Star Trek for the Voyage Home. My friends, we've come home. All right. All right. So let's see. How is that for time? Oh, great. I have 5 minutes, or less than 5 minutes. I usually have 4 minutes or 3 minutes, but now I have 5 minutes. I have to go. I have a hard start. I have to go. So I'm going to have to leave very soon, but I can stick around for another few minutes in the chat. So thank you so much, my friends. Neo says, Neo, yeah, looking forward to ripping the Final Frontier a new one. Yeah, I saw Final Frontier in the theater too. Yeah, it's but there are some really great moments there too. I know that it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one, but we'll talk about it next week. Um, yes, Seth Walsh says, let's see what she's got. I can't do Kirk for the life of me. Let's see what she's got. I love how he just sits up in his chair almost. Fuzz Aldrin says, we need a Star Trek No Way Home. Oh! Oh, wow. 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 That is such what a great idea. I saw No Way Home, by the way. So I enjoyed myself immensely. I'm a big fan of the Spider-Man films. My son in particular, he loves Spider-Man. I think his favorite is Spider-Man. Yeah, and through his love of Spider-Man, I also grew to love, in particular, Spider-Man 3. And so yeah, watching Spider-Man 3 is such a fun time. And also, my son is now doing the Tobey Maguire thing on the train in Spider-Man 2 with the right, right. So yeah, yeah, it's great stuff. I love those films. Yeah, but Star Trek: No Way Home. Ooh, what a great idea. Let's see. Um, Erwin says, I have yet to see Star Trek 5 and 6, so I have no idea, but looking forward to it since these films have been really good for the most part for me. Oh, yes. Yes, thank you. Bartholomew, thank you. Daisuke, always entertaining. Thank you so much. Um, let's see. Oh, Scott, thank you. To Jerome Weaselberry and all, another plug for you. Yes, Daisuke, and Jerome Weaselberry, yes, thank you so much. Um, yes, yes, my dear friend, my dear friend. Um, yeah, I must say, I've done the interview that I was so fortunate to be able to have done with our dear friend Jerome Weaselberry is one of my one of my top videos. So for good reason, because Jerome Weaselberry, what a great person. So insightful. So thank you. And also, you say loved your They Live by Film. Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you so much. Yes, the They Live by Film. That was so. What a nice, such gracious hosts. So really, wow. No, like, like who? Oh, I'd love to interview. Like, you want to interview me? Really? I'm such a boring guy. Thanks. I'm so honored by the invite, let alone being able to actually talk a little bit about just these answers to these questions. So thank you so much for and then listening. You were listening to that, so that really moves me so much. Richard Pine says the voyage home is like an LDS trip. Rich, oh, bravo, bravo, well done. Hold on, I'm like clapping. It's like after Spock has given the Vulcan neck pinch to that guy on the bus. Yeah, it's great. Wonderful. All right. Okay, my friends. Let's see. I'm gonna go. So I'm very sorry I have to cut it short, but thank you so much. Next week, Star Trek 5, The Final Frontier. 2 weeks from now, Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. So let us go forward with it. I'm having such a blast, and it's all down to you. That is just it is like a dream come true. Really it is. So thank you. Um, let's just go forward with this. So my dear friends, how do you feel? How do you feel, my friends? I don't know about you, but the answer to the question for me is, thanks to you, I feel fine. Thank you and cheers. Thank you.